What's up, my brother?
Mr. Nat.
What's going on?
Oh, another day in paradise. How about you?
Yeah, great, man. It's been a good week, solid week. Today's been a little bit weird because I'm starting to get sick. I can feel it, so that's not fun. But that's why I'm not outside with a cigar right now. So
What kind of sickness we talk? Common cold,
at
scurvy,
least
AIDS?
I hope it's not AIDS. I'm married, so that'd be weird.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'd have a whole different conversation if it is.
yeah, 100%. I don't know. I just my it's kind of like right here. That's pretty much it.
Dude, have you seen there's like this, I can't remember where it's from. I think it's Africa, somewhere in Africa, but it's like this full blown news anchor is doing an interview with like an LGBTQ plus LMNOP activist. And he starts the interview out with like, he's like, so you are gay. Why are you gay? He goes, I don't care if you're gay or not, but it's a hell of a way to start an interview. So anyway,
It's a great way to break the ice.
yeah, that's for sure. How's my week? It's been all right week. It's been January is always kind of an interesting month. It actually, like all in all, it ends up being a very productive month for us, but it's a chaotic month. We try really, really hard to have stabilized production and just be very consistent with our effort and our intake.
Yeah.
But January is definitely one of those months where it doesn't matter how consistent your efforts are. You'll go like 6 days totally dry and then 2 days where you've got to onboard 10 people in 2 days. And so,
Yep.
but that's January. Historically speaking, dude, this is one of the things in our business I think you can appreciate. I've told agents for years now, and it's simply that you shouldn't slack off in November and December. The reason you're broke in January is because you didn't work November, December. You may not have felt the results, but the results come January, February. They might not come like as consistent as you want them, but they come. And so traditionally speaking, like January's been good for us. Last year, 2024 was my first year in like 7 years. I didn't hit top of table $1 million round table in January. And this year we won't hit top of table, but we're well on our way to top of table. I'm pretty sure we're going to end past quarter table. So
There you go.
it's a weird little time of year, but you work through it. So I know you deal with a bunch of agents and obviously your own production as well. So,
Yep.
but how are your agents feeling? Because you're the dude that's going to wake up and follow through regardless. What about all the people that, they sign their career, the modality of caring for their families? What about all those folks? How are they doing?
Yeah, it's also you're spot on with like it's a weird time because when you look back at the last 3 months of business, not including January, but just the last quarter in general, like we freaking were ramped up. Like it was running, everyone's moving. Now you look at it, it's like half the production, and I'm like, what the hell happened? And so this whole month, we've just been doing a lot of centralized training around closing skills. We're doing a lot of centralized training and role playing around that. More so, how to make proper phone calls, how to set proper appointments, and then from there, it's like moving that conversation along the board. But we're our recruiting model too, so a lot of that conversation as well is like proper onboarding, proper training, because you can onboard somebody completely wrong, and you can onboard somebody where they're up and running and they're making money in a couple of months. So it's all about that piece of it too. But I'm seeing a shift in our business right now because we just promoted out an executive marketing director. So he popped out, and now we're regrowing that part of the business. So it's a very weird time in the beginning of the year, but I'm very confident we'll still have a very explosive year.
Dude, it's crazy just the different angles you can take. It's one of the reasons I like the business we're in.
Yeah.
But there's so many different ways to skin a cat in this business. And one of the things I've always maintained is, you have a moral obligation. If you're going to bring folks into this business, you have a moral obligation to their excellence, right?
Correct.
Because a lot of times you're talking them out of, and maybe they don't quit their job, but they're not spending the extra time with their family. They're not spent I know you're a big family person.
Yep.
So it's like you have this moral obligation to excellence yourself and then to help them be excellent. And it's funny that, dude, he's an ex-NFL player. I know you do some business with some NFL folks. We've got some NFL folks that are clients of ours, and there's this dude in the business who's an ex-NFL guy. And I remember this was like 18 months ago. I went to a conference and they paid him to speak. And he's like, man, we're onboarding 2,000 people a year, and we've been doing this for like 4 years. I'm like, holy shit, that's incredible. That's great.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, okay, well, out of 2,000 per year, what does your actual stabilized organization look like? And after 4 years of 2,000 people per year because of its popularity, right? They're sitting on about 300 agents and advisors. And out of those 300 agents and advisors, somebody else asked them, like, how many are actually, making 6+ figures, right? Actually earning a living. It's like somewhere like 50 to 100. And I'm like, oh man, versus I've got this other gal. She's part of our mastermind. And she's actually Canadian. She's up in Canada.
Okay.
She's part of the WFG syndicate up in Canada. Okay. But no shade there at all. She only brings on 5 to 10 people a year. Her persistency rate, her percentage of agents that go 3+ years with her is over 90%. And right now, as to date, she's been doing this for 10 years. 100% of her agents do $100,000 their first year. 100 damn percent. Now, they may choose to leave for other reasons, right? Like, it wasn't, but she just gets hyper focused on helping them along the way, which is part of why she has scalability issues. She spends too much time babysitting to make sure they get a paycheck. And we've had that discussion. But at the same time, she's taking that moral obligation very seriously. And I can appreciate that. So,
Yep.
I know y'all that are in the recruiting business, it's one thing to produce. It's another thing to recruit. It's a whole different monkey. So,
and not just recruit too, but to build, like to actually get somebody's mindset around. And what I see it is, it's the biggest thing is the belief, because people, we start off as kids with big dreams. And like, when I was little, I wanted to play in the NFL. And then I got older and I realized, well, I could tackle pretty well. I'm pretty good at catching. I'm decent on speed, but I'm not to that caliber of getting to the NFL as a middle linebacker. Right. And so you wake up to that and you go, okay, well, shit, now what are we going to do next? Like, we got to do something. So then when you become an adult, all that changes. And so when we come across somebody who's working on dreaming again, it's showing them a platform that, look, you can go and actually accomplish what you want to accomplish. But here's the thing, one thing that I was talking to my agency about last night was, when you're bringing people into the company, you need to be upfront with them right on that very first conversation. Like, you need to almost scare them out of the opportunity. And they're like, what do you mean? You need to tell, like, think about it. Like, did anybody in this call in their first 1 year, 2 years, 3 years go straight to $1 million? No. Did you go straight to 100, 200, 500? No. So you need to be very upfront with these people and let them know this isn't going to happen fast. It's going to be hard. You got to put in a lot of sweat equity. It's going to take extra time from your family. You're going to miss parties sometimes, but at the end of the day, if you make it, you push through, you make all this stuff happen. You start to understand that, if you do these small things inside the business, you can go and make that type of income. It'll all be worth it, and it's all temporary. And then you can get back to doing the things that you wanted to do. And we're a spitting image of that. Like, I just put my head down for the COVID came. We put our head down for 2 or 3 years, and our life hasn't looked the same since. Now we can do whatever the hell we want, but it's just getting people past that 6 to 8 to 12 months of pain and approval addiction that we're really working on fixing there. And that's pretty much what it is.
That's significant. So let's walk it back a little bit, because I want to get to know you a little bit more, because there was no way in hell you were 14 years old and you first realized you could have a boner, and you got hard because you were like, I want to be in insurance and finance. Like, that's
that wasn't your life.
No, it was nobody's life. Anybody that says that that's what they wanted is a liar.
Yeah. 100%.
You mentioned you want to be in the NFL, middle linebacker. I played middle linebacker as well, by the way. Middle linebacker and DN. I didn't have any illusions though, because I sucked. So
all right,
it is what it is. But what got you into this business in the first place? What'd you do beforehand? What made you decide, hey, let me take a look at insurance and finance? What where were you? What the fuck was in your brain when you thought you were going to give this a try? And then furthermore, knowing the little bit I know about you, you decided to give this a try in one of the most controversial companies that exists in this business.
Huh?
And I can't imagine that you did that out of ignorance. You're somebody that studies a little too much and reads up on things too much to have been totally ignorant to that fact. Not that they're a bad company, just very controversial, right?
Correct.
So I don't know. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. For me, I had started, I'm just adjusting my camera a little bit, but I had started in the company or in the industry really in 2007 is when I was really introduced to WFG. I I was like 19 at that point in time, just fresh out of high school. And a buddy of mine, his name was JJ, he calls me up. He's like, because he got to build a list, call your list, invite people, right? So he calls me up and he's like, dude, I found the opportunity. We're going to be rich. And I'm like, all right, dude, what are you doing? Like, when did you get into drug sales? And he's like, no. Like, seriously, like, what are you doing Saturday night? Like, I need you to come down and check this out. And I'm like, well, you're my boy. I love you. So I'll be there. Like, send me the address. And I showed up and watched this whole thing, watched this whole orientation. And I was actually very impressed. I was like, okay, this is actually really cool. Like, I could see this actually becoming something. But I was also 19 and wanted to go out and party. And I was finally able to do what I wanted to do. So I ran for about 6 months. I never even got licensed. And then I quit. And then I started working 9 to 5. And that's a whole nother ball game there too. But for me, I had saw the opportunity very early on in 2007, and that always stuck with me. But I think for me, it was timing. Like, I didn't see the opportunity. I didn't see the ability of what could be done in the industry. And I was out. So then fast forward to 2018, I had started a job at a company called Airgas. Okay, so Airgas, they sell nitrogen, oxygen, welding gases. Yep, all that stuff. Oxygen.
Buy my oxy and acetylene from Airgas when I had my auto shops.
There you go. It's for welding. So, and then we have they do bulk system. They do a lot of stuff there. So my job was outside sales. I had a territory that I needed to manage. And it was very new to me because I didn't know packaged gases, but I knew sales, right? So I started in the industry, and a year in, I freaking killed it, dude. Like, I brought in 3.2 million of gross margin revenue to this company. In my first year, 3.2 in gross margin. And went in, got my first year review, and obviously, do you know how that goes? You killed it. Great job. Here's your little 3%. I'm like, 3%? What do you mean 3%? Like, I brought you guys in $3 million of brand new business and you're giving me 3%. I was pissed. I went out to my car and I hop on Instagram live and I'm watching them. And my buddy, who now is one of my mentors, his name's Mario. He's been in the industry now, 17 years? And he was on live. This guy never gets on social media live. His English is his second language. Him and I went to high school together. He started in the business in the same office that I came to in 2007 when I was 19. So he saw the opportunity. He went for it. And at that time, when I watched him on live, he had just in WFG taken an executive vice chairman promotion. He was making $750,000 a year, killing it. And so he's doing this live video, and I'm watching him, and I'm watching him. Like, this is not the same Mario that I knew in high school or even let alone in 2007. So this would have been now the third time that I saw WFG again, because I saw it in 2015, came back for a year, quit again, got licensed, got promoted, quit again. But again, I just wasn't in it. So now 2018, fast forward, my son is now 2 months old when I'm watching this live. I just had an annual review where I killed it and they gave me 3%. So I'm now hovering around $100,000, $115,000 a year. And I'm like, I'd rather be home with my son. This guy's talking about how he's actually living the dream and doing this stuff. I'm going to hit him up. So I hit him up after the live was over and I talked to him. Like, hey man, hope you're doing well. I was just watching you on live. I need to talk to you. And I'm looking at getting back into the industry and I want to work specifically with you. And so he's like, all right, well, come down Saturday. We're out with all the whole spiel. Call my wife. Babe, I think I'm going to go back into the industry. I'm going to go back. I'm going to work with Mario though, because I know it's going to be different. And she goes, well, I support you, babe. But if you quit one more time, I won't support you in the industry ever again. I was like, fuck, all right. Checkmate. So I went all in and I didn't quit my job. So I worked with them for about a couple of years. We made a little bit of money here and there. But the problem wasn't the company. The problem wasn't Mario. The problem wasn't anything else. The problem was me. I wasn't prospecting. I wasn't closing deals. I wasn't setting up appointments. I wasn't mastering my craft. I was just expecting it to happen. Right. And so COVID came. I'm still working for Airgas now at this point in time still, but COVID came, working 100% from home. And I don't know, man, something clicked. And I'm going to all these trainings, getting all this mentorship, watching all these people around me starting to do good. And I'm like, there's no reason why I can't do this. And so I started diving harder into social media. I started diving harder into like actually looking at IULs and how they work and structuring them and all the stuff. And it started to click for me a lot more. And then I started going on appointments and started making videos on social media. And then that's when things started to like kind of ramp up for us. So yeah, man, for me in the very beginning, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I tried to be a firefighter, tried to be an electrician. I tried all these different things. And for some reason, something just kept pulling me back to the industry. I've seen it 3 times now. I'm like, you know what? There's something there, and I was right. There was something there, and so that's kind of the pathway that led me to where we are now on that kind of question.
Dude, that's interesting. Like, we all have our story, right? And my story, I always talk about how there, in a way, I kind of tripped into the industry because how I got in, I kind of did. But at the same time, I had so much exposure to it. I had so many opportunities to come in before I tripped into it. Like, for example, my brother-in-law, super smart dude. At this point, he's launched his own tech firm, and like he builds software for small little companies like Cisco and some others.
Damn.
But before that, like clear back, I think you and I are about the same age. Clear back, I was just getting out of high school, 2007, and he's like, "Hey, I've been working with this thing called Primerica, and I'm doing really, really well." And I was like, "Nah, man, I ain't doing that shit." But he had worked his way up. He built his way up to an RVP. He had a good thing going, and I to this day, a lot of y'all wonder why I get along with the Primerica folks. It's
Makes
because
sense.
I don't think I don't think a single one of them wakes up thinking like I'm going to be an asshole and do wrong by people. I like there might be a few of them, but by and large, every single one of them I know, they absolutely believe they're doing their best. Right. Education tends to be a bitch, but it tends to be a bitch on this side too.
Right.
But he had pushed real hard. And then right after that, I've got a buddy I went to high school with. His dad is a very prominent WFG member out of Southern Utah, who's part of Monty's syndicate in Southern Utah. We did Monty's property casualty for years. When I first got in the insurance business, we insured Homestead Ranch, but yeah, little Willie was always trying to push me like, "Hey, come do a WFG meetup," and I never ever did. I got in on a totally different side. I got in as a captive multi-line building a scratch agency for a company similar to like Farmers or State Farm, right?
Roger that.
And so it was a different take, but it's like, damn, looking back, hearing your story, I always tell my story and I'm like, man, I tripped into this industry. I wasn't looking for it. I was doing well with auto repair. Like, I was making well over 6 figures. It wasn't just a 5-gallon bucket full of tools. I still have hundreds of thousands worth of tools. And we ran and owned our own shops and did well with them. I just wanted time with family, and some things came up, and that's how I got in. But it's interesting how we all get in, or not all of us. There's some folks that are just on the hunt for a commission, and that's why they get here. I guess the thing that's interesting is the people I've met that have done the best at this didn't intend on doing the bet. Like it was almost accidental, but you just couldn't ignore it because it just kept coming back. Does that make any sense?
It makes tons of sense, man. Because even in 2007, when I saw the opportunity, I still had to remember my agent code when I signed up with the company. I was 09BXV, and I always remembered it. And then when I came back in 15, same agent code. Then when I came back in 18, same agent code. So I never even tried different companies. I always came back to WFG, and I like the platform. I like the model. I like the leadership that I was exposed to, and I got lucky because, to the credit of the company, there are a lot of solid people there. There's a lot of solid leadership in that organization, in the field force. I'm not talking about corporate America on that side, but I got lucky because I got into a part of WFG that was thriving. They were doing it right. They were taking care of their people. They were getting people licensed before they were taking them into the field. They were focusing on promotions. They were focusing on getting people paid. Where other people in the company are like, I remember I did this, Carson. We don't do it anymore because it doesn't fit the model because people get paid so fast now. But before we would, the way that company pays is it takes a little while. But once a policy gets issued and delivered, you probably won't see that cycle for 3 or 4 days or 5 days after it's issued. And so what I would do is, someone new that we bring in, I want to get them started fast. I'd want to get them licensed quick. So I told them, hey, if you can pass your license in the first 5 days, I'll give you 99% of the first 3 deals we do together. I'll do the work, right? I'll do the underwriting. We'll do everything for you. You can learn. I'm still going to teach you, but I'll give you 99% because I was already a marketing director and SMD. So there was already so much spread there. I could do that. And the way I looked at it was I'd rather take the spread from WFG into my pocket than from my agent, right? So I give them, because then I only get an override spread of 1%. right? So my side is only 1%, and then I take the rest from WFG. So we started doing that, and it was very successful. And I remember telling somebody, they're like, "What's working for you?" And I was like, "Well, I'll tell you, but you probably won't want to do it." And I'm like, "No, tell me, like, what is it?" So I explained it to them, and they looked at me like, "You're crazy. Why would you do that?" See, I was like, "I told you you wouldn't do it. There's a difference between you and me. I understand that no matter what, this stuff's going to get paid out. But if I do it the way you're doing it, I'm now taking 50% from that person, and then I'm still taking an additional whatever the spread is, 30%, 40% from WFG. So I'm making 90% on a deal. They're making 30. Why not give them the whole thing? You're still going to get a 40, 50% override, you know? So for me, it was more about taking care of my people, the retention side of it, and everyone that we've done that with. So that we've switched that up now, but because now it's a little bit different with GFI and how it works. But dude, it was just, it is crazy how we come back, but a lot of people land on bad organizations and teams inside of that company. There's a lot of bad training inside of that company. And, that's a whole nother story as well. But I'm blessed that I landed where I landed with the people that I landed with, because we are getting that correct mentorship and that leadership behind it.
Yeah. And I'm glad you make that distinction. I found in my career, there's not a lot of bad organizations or teams. In fact, I'm having a hard time pointing out a single one very often. There are bad teams in that organization, but they're not bad companies. Like, they fit a certain tool, they focus on a certain thing, they do it. Like, even, I know you're not a big fan of Primerica. I love Primerica. They do an incredible job at, number one, getting people in the business, which we've got a ton of folks retiring out of this business. We need more in. And then they do an incredible job at helping agents understand that something like cash value life insurance is not the end all be all. You really ought to have these other things. They just tend to ignore the other side of this conversation and villainize it, right? But on the flip side of that coin tends to be this space where you have these other organizations that, some of them like GFI or WFG, do a really great job of getting folks into the business and pushing things like cash value life insurance, but oftentimes it's at the expense of other really incredible things. And what I've found, the biggest difference in between, like, I know, and I personally work with to this day, like, we coach them, we train them, groups at, for example, Primerica, where they're like, okay, we know where we're a good fit. What about all of our blinders? How do we not only recognize it, but make that referral and maybe monetize that referral too, right? And I think there's not enough of that. Like, that's a really quality team, in my opinion. But unfortunately, it's less common than it is more common. So again, I appreciate you making the distinction that, like, these companies, there's not bad companies, there's bad teams, there's bad leadership, there's piss poor leadership. What's been, without naming names or anything like that, and it doesn't have to be WFG, what's been one of your biggest struggles with leadership? You've had some great leaders, you mentioned, but what's been one of your biggest struggles with leadership, whether it's a group you've worked with or maybe a group someone else has worked with? Provide some perspective there if you would.
Yeah. I'm no leader in any organization or industry or in the world is perfect. Everyone's going to have their flaws. That's one thing we want people to understand. Like, hey, whoever you're working with or wherever you landed, like, understand that person that's helping and leading you is not going to be perfect. They're going to have flaws, but as long as you can get the job done and you can still, be happy, then that's all good. But I've just seen people now where, they've built their career. They're happy with $2 million a year and they don't work to build anybody anymore. They just have their calls, they get people on, and they override everybody. And everyone's stuck making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, and they wonder why they can't get to the $1 million a year. They can't get to the $3 million a year. The reason why is because you're not scaling anymore. The reason why is because you're not being taught how to scale anymore. You've just been taught how to close deals because somebody wants to override you. So I think that's one of the biggest things right now in the industry that I'm seeing with some of these older leaders that have been around for a while. And that's why I have so much respect for Eric Olson, because he's 42, 43 years old. He's one of two people in the industry to ever get to a point where they're making $1 million a month passively. And the other one is 73 years old. And out of those two, one stepped away from that company where they were making $1 million a year to rebuild from the ground up and put all his faith into himself and the leaders that followed him relentlessly. So, I look at that's the example that I have, because I've been working with Eric and Mario for my last 8 years of my career. And then when I see someone else and the bullshit that they're doing, I'm like, fuck would I ever do that? Why would I ever lead somebody like that? Like, why would I ever treat people like this when I'm seeing this side of the coin? Right. So I'm just blessed that I have a very solid example and a very solid base of great leadership in the industry because I don't know anything else. So when I see something wrong, I can address it. Like I had somebody reach out to me Tuesday. I think we did the hiring interview on Tuesday or the recruiting interview on Tuesday. They work with somebody that we both know very well, and they weren't happy. They were not getting good leadership. They were getting mistreated, and all that, and they've stepped away. And then we were doing a live, and I was talking, and then that attracted them. And we had a conversation on Zoom, and they're like, "You're exactly the way you were on live. Like you don't hold back. You tell it how it is, and I respect that. Like I'd like to work with you." So it's again, it's just how you treat people and how you've been treated is very important. So that's what I'm seeing, Carson, along the road is just people are trying to override. They're not trying to build people and take care of people.
Yeah, dude. It goes back, what, 15, 20 minutes ago, we were just talking about this moral obligation. Like, I think there's so many people in our business that don't understand this opportunity. The opportunity is not to get an insurance license. Like any two-bit who's not a freaking moron can get a freaking insurance license. It's not hard. To the point of everybody talking shit on insurance agents, you're right. It's not freaking hard in the large scope of things. ASVAB was harder than getting an insurance license.
For sure.
It's not that difficult. And I know some people struggle with it, but hey, maybe this isn't your thing. Like go do something. You've got your own zone of genius, you know? This isn't it. But it's not difficult. So the opportunity is not getting an insurance license. The opportunity is certainly not appointing with a carrier or an organization, because every organization will appoint agents. They don't care if you bring in $5,000 and then you piss away and you never come back. They made $5,000. I mean, add that to scale times millions of agents every single year. They're doing all right, you know. The real opportunity is to work with somebody who really takes to heart this concept of the moral obligation of your livelihood, and ensuring that your livelihood is not just based on selling something, it's based on selling them something that sticks. It sticks because it solves a problem. And like, that's a whole nother conversation we can dive into if you want, but
yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you could speak to that, like the actual opportunity, because like a GFI's very quickly growing organization. I've had a few issues with GFI when they first launched, and I made those very publicly known. But, I've rescinded some of those statements to the fact that, or to the tune of, the issue isn't with GFI, it's with some teams, frankly, just like anywhere else.
Yep.
But yeah, why would somebody, like, what's the actual opportunity of working with somebody like a Matt versus a Dylan, a Frank, a Shirley, or whoever the fuck else at GFI? Like, where's the real opportunity? Because let's be honest, if I can get an insurance license and GFI will babysit me through it, and if I'm willing to get appointed, I can get appointed with GFI. Like, that's not the opportunity. The opportunity is elsewhere. So could you maybe speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and this is actually a really good question. And to your point, like when I don't think a lot of people know the backstory as to why GFI started the way that it did. And we weren't even supposed to go live in the industry until April of last year. And this is a lot of this is all public knowledge now. But the reason why we jump started in February is because Eric was offered a sum of money by a certain company, and him and his wife turned it down because the biggest thing for Eric was, what are my people going to get? You guys are going to give me this, but what about the 16,000 licensed agents that we have? They said, oh no, that's just for you so that you don't go. And then him and Sandra are literally in the car and they're looking at each other, and she's like, that's not what you want. Why are we going to take the money, or is that not what you want? And so he's like, no deal, no dice. This is on a Sunday. Next day, the company terminates him. So of course we're like, well, now we got to get to work. Like, why are we going to wait? There's no waiting to April now. There's no reason to. So I resigned from the company January 31. And the next day I was full-time in GFI. So for me, what I see in GFI compared to other companies, and I won't name names just because, that doesn't matter, but just in general, a lot of companies are not transparent with their compensation. They'll say, well, you can make 100 and X%. And then when you break it down, you're only getting 80% of that target or 75% of that target. And then they're giving you the rest of the last 3 months as earns. right? Like for me, I look at that and I go, that's a great way to start the company, but you should never keep that as your model. Because if someone, it's the way I look at it is if you're going to go work a job for 40 hours and that job goes, all right, Carson, I'm going to only give you 80% of your pay. And then in the last 3 months of the year, we'll give you the rest if you're still here, right? Or if whatever. So that was one thing that I looked at. I didn't really like about the industry. A lot of the talk around ownership, people talk about the book of, I want to own my book of business. Great, then go get your securities license and build a book of business. Because insurance book of business is not the same as securities book of business. And it's tossed around like it's why we're running the business. Like, no, I'm not doing this to own a book of business. I'm doing this to own an agency that I can then transfer down to my son. And we build this thing up to 15, 16,000 licensed agents. It's not something that my son, and hopefully when we have another one, my kids can take over, and then my great grandkids, and then you know what I mean. So it's bigger than that, and that's something that is coming out in April, and I'll happily have that conversation with you in April when it's all released because I'm under NDA. But our second stage of ownership is coming out with GFI, and this has never been done in the industry ever, right? Ever, ever, ever. And so we're very excited to bring that to light and be able to share that too. So that's another piece of it is like we're changing the aspect of ownership in the industry. Culture is another one. We host a lot of retreats. I think you and I talked about this last time we were on a live, but we host a lot of retreats. Like we're finishing up and finalizing. We just paid for the house in in Salt Lake. So we're going to Salt Lake, Utah next month, and then we're going to go to Sedona, Arizona in April. And we bring our people out there and we pay for them to stay at the house, we pay for the food, we pay for the activities. We'll even bring in people to come mentor. And all they got to do is get themselves there. And we're bringing in, we're not just bringing in scrubs. We're bringing in people that are actually like making it happen and doing very well. And so we pour into them for a couple of days, 3-4 days, and we send them back home. And then return on investment is they go and kill it, right? And so that's a big one. And I don't see a lot of leaders doing that have been in the industry 8 years. People that have been in the industry 15, 16, 20 years, they're like, fuck all that. Like, hop on my Zoom call and I'll give you some training. That's what you get, right? So we're still doing that type of stuff. That's a big one with culture. And the way that GFI is structured, in most companies, it's this team versus that team. We still have that structure in GFI, but the difference is that it's a collective. So we're all under the umbrella of GFI, and everything that we do grows the profits of GFI. So in 6-7 years, when we decided to take this thing public, we've all built GFI to be massive. And now based on production and based on performance, now you get a piece of the pie. So, it's a whole different ballgame with that piece. The leadership, you have people in the company that have, Greg Kapp, for example, he's been in the industry, and he's 72. He's been in the industry 40 something years. You have Marty Schaefer, who's been in the industry tons of years now too. He's got tons of experience. He's built and sold many companies within the industry. Of Eric Olson, right? We just brought over, what's his name? Joe Justice. He's in our company now on the executive level for GFI. We just brought over another guy from WFG who was at their executive team in corporate America. Now he's over here in GFI. So Eric and Marty are literally building this C-suite of executives around GFI, so, and then the companies we're working with, they're all in too. They're starting to change a lot of the things that they've never done because we're like, hey, we need this. You can improve this. You can, we just had a meeting with one of our carriers this morning, and they don't pay daily to anybody right now. They pay once a week on the life side. And they're this close now to flipping that switch for GFI to where they'll pay daily, and they'll be the only company they do it for. So it's just GFI is just bringing a whole different transformation to the industry, and it hasn't shown yet on a large scale because it's only been 11 months. But once this stuff starts to kind of uptick, it's gonna be insane what happens.
So a few things I want to break down there. Number one, on commissions. I know you, and you haven't been quiet. You've been on about this for months now. You've kind of made it a crusade. Why is it such a big deal? Number one. And number two, more so, like, why is it a big deal? Because, yeah, in the industry, like, I bring an agent on. I just brought on another agent yesterday. And you know this. I don't large-scale recruit.
Right,
like,
right.
I'll take on, I think at this point. So I built an organization. We had almost 350 agents. I sold that, launched the mastermind, and literally just a couple months ago, it was like, okay, I'll start bringing some people on. And we're sitting at about 25 people right now. So I brought on an agent yesterday. He's already producing. He's already doing a couple 100,000 a year, kind of the whole 9 yards. He's happy. So I'm like, all right, let me bring you on, and we're going to set you up day one, 105 to 110, but then you have annualization in advance. right?
Okay.
But when an agent really understands, so we always talk about properly structured IUL, for example. I'm not waiting 8 months for my full paycheck. I'm waiting 3 to 4 months because the rest of my commission gets paid out once target premium is paid for the year. And if target premium is 30 to 35% of annual premium and a client's paying monthly, by the time I hit month 3, month 4, that's paid up and I'm paid. If I can't cash flow my business on that model, there's more significant things at play than just the way I'm getting paid, if that makes sense.
100%.
And so that's something I've maintained. But I welcome your perspective because I know you think that it's too complicated. Give those people that extra money up front. But we're talking like it's an extra $200. Like you're waiting. If $200 paid to you in 3 months versus now puts you out of business, you have bigger issues. Like you need to figure out how to get in front of more people, talk to people better, close. But again, I welcome your perspective. So let's address that one first, and then I have a couple other questions.
It's $200 on one policy, but if this person is closing 10, 15, 20 policies a month, now we're at a larger scale there, you see? So, but here at the end of the day, that's totally fine too. There, you understand your model. There's transparency there. When you break that down with that new person coming in, they know exactly what they're getting into. I've spoken to, I mean, we've onboarded 50 people already from this specific company. I'm not saying names, but this company they'll tell you you're at it's not the real number, but you're at 130, Carson. Okay.
Yeah.
But then when you look at if they sell anything outside of one particular product, you're not at a 130. You're out at like
one
80
simplified issue. Yeah. Okay.
You see what I mean? That's not fucking transparent. Don't tell me I'm at 130. But then if I write a properly structured IUL, I'm only getting 80% of that target. That's a fucking lie. So that for me is bullshit. Like if I'm at, you should not be able to say you're at 140. All right, let's get you started. And then I write something else. It's bullshit. The other part of that is on the annuity side. There's some companies right now paying their agents 3-4% on annuities. And then they're pocketing the other 5-6% that they're getting. We know how much annuities pay out. You go directed, you're getting more than 3%. So that's another piece of it too. But you know, when I started kind of going down this road, like, and I started looking at everything, I'm like, dude, these people are getting they're getting fucked, like literally. And so I sat down with one of these agents, and we started doing math because I have this saying like it's all about cash flow, not contract. Because there was a buddy of mine I was sitting with. He's with another company. He's like, hey, if I'm gonna come work with you in GFI, I want a street contract. I'm like, first of all, I don't know what the hell you mean by street contract because I don't sell drugs. Right, kind of like making fun of him. I'm like, I don't know what you mean by street, dude. Like, just tell me the percentage. He's like, I get 100%. I said, okay. Well, let me ask you, how much have you closed in target?
By the way, 100% is not street. That's over high street. High street is like 95. Street is like 80 to 90.
So he's hustling. So he said 100, but
street is an independent term. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I figured. So he goes, I'm getting 100. I said, awesome. How much in target? Annuities, term, IUL, everything did you close last year? He goes, 240. Okay, so you closed $240,000 in target premium last year? He's like, yeah. I was like, so your cash flow was 240 last year? He goes, no, it was 60.
So he was 240 annual, right?
You tell me. He doesn't even fucking know. He couldn't even tell me. I was like,
where's the other percent comp? So I think that's one thing agents, so I found, and I run, again, we run this mastermind. We've got almost 5,000 agents in. We've got a bunch of GFI, WFG. We've got Primerica agents, captives. Like, we've got so many dang folks. We got a lot of perspectives. The number one thing when it comes to compensation, especially around universal life policies, that people don't understand is the difference between target and annual. Just because you did $240,000 in annual paid premium, if you structured it properly.
He said it was, he knows because him and I know target. So he said,
if 240 was if 240 was his target, then his annual should have been like 600, right? And so if he's getting 60 and that's the actual case, 60 and his annual was 600, it's like, bro, you're getting 10 damn percent.
That's exactly what I was like, dude, you're getting 10%. You're not getting 190, whatever the hell it is. That's why cash flow matters more than contract.
Yeah. I'll agree with that.
You know what I mean? So for that, and he was like, yeah, I need to go back and look at this. I'm like, you for sure do, because you're not making what 240 here. And I did the math. I was like, if you would have done, it was like 240 because we do, I'll tell you how we go and break it down. I was like, dude, if you would have done that here before bonuses, you would have made $192,000. With bonuses, you would have crossed 200 grand easily. So that's the thing about it, Carson, that really pisses me off. The way that we do our commission here is it's straight up. Okay. So we do 30 to 80% contracts on your personal pen. Okay. There's 30, 45, 50, 50, 60, 70, and 80. Okay. 80 is the highest. 80 is that's it.
You bonus on top of that.
Yep. You get bonuses, you get override spreads, all that stuff. Right. But if I close a deal and it's 10,000 in target premium, I'm not talking annual premium because I don't give a fuck about annual premium. I want to know what your target is. If I close 10,000 in target premium, that 10,000 is what you're going to make, is what you're going to now take on your contract. So if you had a 50% contract, you're going to make $5,000. There's transparency. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, or like 30% here. No, it's like you're going to, and we give 100% of it annualized. So it's not like what you were explaining. We're going to give a little bit now and then it's going to trickle out. Like if you close 10,000, we're going to pay the full target premium when it issues right away. And that's my gripe with it is like, if there's not a lot of transparency around commissions right now.
Yeah. I think again, I'm going to go back to like, there's not bad organizations. There's bad teams.
Yes.
Most of these carriers, like the commissions they're not complicated, but they don't get explained or they get misconstrued because you take the one good piece and throw it out there. And then the other side is that because there's bad teams, there is this major persistency issue in the industry as a whole. So like your team doesn't have that issue. My team doesn't. But because as an industry, there's this huge persistency issue, a company like NA, they on the independent side, they're going to say, hey, we'll annualize or advance up to 70% on target and blah, 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 but we're going to cap you at 2,500. Now, if you go and produce, and so like with me, I write a lot of business with NA. I like them. I write my business a lot differently than a lot of other folks who like them write it. Like we don't use hybrids and vault controls really, but that's neither here nor there. That's another conversation. But we've done a lot with them over the years. And because of that, I can get my policy advance rate or annualization rate is out to like I think I'm at like 50,000 with NA right now on a single policy. And so it's like, and so then you talk about what if you sell 10 policies a month? If I sell 10 policies a month where I'm making 50,000 a piece, like I'm still okay. Yes. I can wait 3 months to get the rest, So the better you do, the better you can do, but the industry has to protect itself from itself. I think it's a weakness of the industry. I definitely, listening to you, I think it's a strength of GFI that GFI is willing to invest in its agents and advisors without the track record. It's like, hey, we don't know you. We don't know if you're going to come in and screw us over, but we're going to make sure you get paid today. And we're asking you not to screw us over on the back end. And I think that's a strength. I hope it doesn't turn into a weakness.
Well, sure. I'll tell you this. It wasn't for no reputation. Eric is a fucking closer. Right. And so his reputation precedes him in the industry. And so when he started negotiating with a lot of these companies, he had to come to the table with something. So he came to the table with the business that he built in WFG, like all the production, 300 million, all that stuff was brought to the table with a lot of these carriers. And then a lot of it was like, this is what we're going to do in the first year. And a lot of, what we learned is a lot of the carriers will take that goal, they'll cut it in half, and then they think that's is close to it, and they'll cut it in half one more time. And that's what they're expecting from that organization. In most cases, that's where they're getting. Well, they did that with GFI, and we blew past it and actually got to the numbers that we said we were going to do. GFI in the first 10 months did 100 million in production. So we didn't just come to say we were going to do, like we friggin' showed up and actually performed, right? So that's the biggest difference with a lot of the carriers is now they're seeing like, damn, these guys aren't necessarily, they're writing good business. Their persistency is good. They're not just, and not a lot of it is replacement business, right? It's like brand new business, brand new clients. And so like I'm looking at our persistency right now as a whole organization with what my wife and I are building right now. We're at 89%, right? And so some of it is mess ups because we're having some carrier issues with how they pay out, but we're fixing it. But normally we were around 93, 94% persistency. So it's, dude, you're spot on. Like it is again based on your reputation, and it should be. Because if you got a 50% persistency, why the heck should you get everything in advance? You shouldn't. And the other side of it is those caps. Like there's these same companies I'm explaining, they'll say like, yeah, you're at this high amount of commission, but then they fail to say you're going to only get 2,500 of it, and then you'll get the rest later down the road. So you're kind of capped. And we have a guy that we brought from one of these companies, and he goes, let me ask you a question, because I closed 18,000 in Target, not an annual, but Target premium over here. And the most I made was he was paid $2,500. He hit the cap on the income for that. And he goes, how much would I have made if we closed it here? I said, well, if you're at this contract, you would have made about 11 grand. He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna believe you on that. Came in, closed a few deals, and he made $9,000 on some of the first deals that he put together. It all hit his bank account. He's like, you weren't messing around. I was like, why would I lie to you? Like, there's no reason to lie. Like, it's all there in front of you. So that's the other piece of it too. Like, so they'll say you get this, but they're going to advance you 75% of it, and then they're going to cap that 75% advance.
Like, fuck. And then it really comes out as earned down the road.
Fuck, dude. And then if that client cancels, you take the full persistency hit. Come on, man. And you give all the money back. I don't know. For me, it's like there has to be transparency there within. This is people's livelihood we're talking about, right?
Yeah. What? Trying to figure out how I want to ask this question.
Just ask it, bro.
You are gay. No.
That was a statement, not a question.
What builds an organization like that? Because here's the reality. The reality is the potential on the independent side, as opposed to going to GFI, the potential for income is significantly more. But the problem is relationships and follow through, right? And that's where I think a company like GFI is able to bring equity to an agent's business.
Yeah.
Is the relationship and the experience, the business, and there's a lot of other things too. But certainly as a straight up independent, going direct to carrier or even direct through a BGA, like the potential for income, it's far greater. And even though I'm capped, yeah, I'm going to, over the next 12 months, I'm going to make way more. I just got to survive the next 12 months, right? What gives the leadership at a group like GFI or WFG or any of these major organizations, what gives them the negotiating power to go to a multi-billion dollar carrier, insurance carrier, and say, hey, even though you're capping everyone else, even on the independent side, your number one distribution channel is independent. Even though you're capping them at 2,500 for whatever reasons, we want this. And you can have, so like Eric's track record of being in business. But what specific characteristics, traits, like if somebody wanted to emulate that, and whether it was 5-10 years from now, be in that same position of negotiating power, what specifically do you think they would need to implement to get there?
It's a really good question. And I'll tell you that no one will be able to emulate it. The reason why is because it doesn't just have to do with the track record of the business. It's Eric. You can't emulate Eric's closing abilities. You can't emulate Eric's negotiation skills. You can't emulate his passion, his vision, his energy, his commitment. Like, you can't emulate any of that. With my experience with Eric Olson has been over the last 8 years, what he says he's going to do, he actually does. Most people don't have that skill. They tell you they're going to get something done for you, and they don't follow through, right? Or it takes them forever. So when Eric walked into some of these carriers, and just for safety reasons, we don't need to go through company names and everything and who we actually work with, but he came to them with, this is what we're going to do. This is my vision for GFI. This is what we've done in the past, but this is what we're going to do in the future. We want you to be a part of that. And they gave us some trial up front. And in those first 3 months of that trial, we demolished the numbers that they thought we were going to do. And they were like, shh. And then they got to start meeting some of us. Like, they have me in some of these rooms. They have Mario and Eric and like Greg Cap. And we're in a room with these guys. We're talking and we're getting to meet them. We're talking about family. We're talking about faith. We're talking about fun and all the 5 F's that we talk about, but a lot of people make fun of online, where we actually incorporate that shit into our lives, and we incorporate it into these people. And now these people are corporate America, and they're starting to change their lives and focus on their faith and their family and all these other areas. And like, these guys are not just about closing policies. Like, they actually genuinely care about people. This is different. And that all started with Eric. And so Eric came to these companies when it's like, yeah, we're going to do the numbers, but this is the vision. This is what we're about. We're not just here to call and sell final expense leads. Like, that's not even on the radar. Like, we want to take care of our people. We want to take care of our clients. The reason why I'm fighting for 100% advance, the reason why I'm fighting for no caps, the reason why I'm fighting for this is because of my people. No one's doing this right now. We're going to have it done. If we can't agree on these 20 things, you can't work with GFI. No shit. And yeah, so that's the differentiator. The differentiator is Eric. Can't emulate it.
So what, dude, let's dive into kind of the 5Fs here. Cause you mentioned like people make fun of it. I don't think I've made fun of I think I was telling you this. We have our own thing that we push. We don't push 5Fs. We push, and I've been teaching this since 2015. 5 stewardships: physical, mental, spiritual, family, and your work, right? And there's all sorts of things, but it's very congruent to your 5Fs. The only thing I've ever said, I wouldn't say negatively, but maybe crossways, is I ran into, this is when GFI had just come out, and this gal was like, we believe in fate, like we believe in God, so buy life insurance from me. And I was like, you know who else believed in God? The motherfuckers who flew those planes into the Twin Towers. Like, shut the fuck up.
That's I don't agree with that either. But
no, I'm just saying.
I have a different stance. I have a different stance on the faith side of it. Like, and if we get back into like my childhood and any of that on this conversation, you'll see why. But I have a completely different stance on faith.
And I'm getting there.
All right, we'll go there. I'm getting a little more comfortable speaking about it because that's one part of my life I don't talk about too much. But for me, like it's a double-edged sword. Like whatever people believe in, I respect it. You believe in whatever you want to believe in, whatever faith, whatever religion, you do you. That does not affect my life one way or another. But the other side of it is the faith of like someone that's starting off brand new in the industry. They don't know shit about it. They don't even think they can go make $100,000 a year. I got to figure out how to develop that faith in them to get them to believe in themselves enough that they can go make $100,000, 200, 500, whatever amount of money they want to make. Shit, even the fact that they can go make a phone call. You know what I mean? Like some people have a hard time making phone calls these days. So the faith side of it is not just the religion. It's like, how can I develop faith in somebody to where now they can believe in themselves enough to pick up a phone and have the confidence to go, hey, I need your help, blah, blah, whatever the script may be. So for me, the faith is double-edged in my point of view. Now, someone that's going like, you got to buy from me because I believe in God. And if you like, that's bullshit. Like, don't leverage religion that way. Like, that's a bullshit move. And I would run away from somebody like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the definition of priestcraft, right? Like, good hell. But no, dude, so you brought it there. Let's go there. Let's talk about your childhood.
Okay.
Matt, who hurt you?
You don't want to know, bro.
No, I do. I've got some shit about my childhood too. So, you show me yours, I'll show you mine. No, you brought that up, and the fact that you brought that up tells me that maybe you're not practicing talking about it, but you're ready to start having the conversation. So let's have a conversation.
Yeah, there's pieces that I've realized, man, I need to share more of because it inspires people. Like the foster care side of my life, for a long time, I was ashamed to talk about it. And then I started coaching and training other people. And I shared it at one point, kind of like a blip of it. And I was like, I'm going to test it out a little bit because people are confiding, and I tested it out. And I had like 6 people come up to me like, dude, I was in foster care too. Like, I cannot believe it. That's amazing. And then Ruth, she was also, and I found out that too. So, so when I was younger, just to kind of go all the way back, me and my mom and my dad, when I was born, they were homeless, man. Like they weren't, we didn't come from anything. And what I remember about my childhood, and I always go back and forth with my mom and dad on this. They're like, that wasn't like this is my perception of as a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old from being able to spark my memory. Like this is the shit that I remember. I remember living in a car. I remember living in downtown San Jose inside of tents in a park. Like I remember having to change hotel rooms every so often. I remember there being like a sheet down the middle of the room because my mom and my dad wanted to smoke their weed and make sure I was sleeping, which, no problem with that. Like weed's completely normal now. But in the 80s and 90s, like it was like, oh my God, like you lose your mind, right? So I don't hold that against my mom and my dad at all anymore. We've come to the terms, and I've told them I forgive them. Like they made their mistakes, and if anything, it actually helped me in my life because I don't do drugs. I stopped drinking. Like if anything, it helped me see what I don't want to do, and so I'm grateful to them for that. As much as it is that's a hard way to learn some lessons, but that's the way we went. So so I remember being homeless, and then my mom and my dad, they finally started kind of turn a corner. And I remember living in I'm pretty sure it was a duplex in San Jose. And then, we were outside, and my mom and my dad, would go play outside. And it's because they wanted to kind of do their thing, So they were still, doing the drugs, but we were throwing rocks over the fence, and we're trying to break the windows over there, right? And so we are breaking some windows. Cops get called. They show up. They come walking up the driveway. Like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, well, we're throwing rocks. I'm like, okay, where are your parents? They're inside. That was it. So they knock on the door. My mom, my dad, and my mom actually found the citation from that day, and it actually said on it that they were tested and they had marijuana and coke in their system. So like, shit, I thought it was just marijuana. Mom, you be getting on the white stuff too? Like, shit, okay. Like, you were partying, right? So that's where it all began. We were taken to juvenile hall, put into foster care. So I was in foster care from the ages of 4 to 9. So I went finally back to my mom and my dad at 9. And it was rough, dude. Like, these foster homes, dude, they don't give a shit. Most of them don't give a shit about the kids in them. I remember sitting down for dinner and I got in trouble, of course, because, I'm acting out and I'm living with people I don't really know or care about. And I sit down, and a part of the punishment they gave me was everyone else gets McDonald's and I got to eat cream of mushroom soup. Like, that was their punishment system. Oh, and by the way, we're not going to give you a bath either. So I sit down at the table and my head is like, and I'm scratched my head, and like, I just remember bugs landing on the table. Like, dude, I remember this shit like it was yesterday. And they're like, the mom looks at me and she's like, you're freaking disgusting. Go take a bath. And so like, I have to go bathe myself. I don't remember what age I was, but so that's just one scenario. And like, all this other shit happened in foster care. So when I finally got back with my mom and my dad, it was a little bit rocky, but our relationship grew. It got a lot better. And I respect my mom and my dad because through all of that, they stayed married. Through all of that, they improved their lives. They now live in Idaho and in Radiant, Idaho. And they were able to get out and get away from all that. And they still, raised me and my sister to be, do very well. And so, I don't hold that against them anymore. I'm grateful for what they had to go through. And that's just the way that their life was. But for me, the coming back to the religion side, that same family that I was telling you about that would cream of mushroom soup and punishment was like no baths and all this stuff. They were very big in the church, like Christian, diehard Christians. And we would go to church Wednesdays, and on Wednesdays, you would have to go up to the front. They'd have all the pastors and people lined up at the front. You would pray with them. What do you want the most? What do you want the most? What do you want the most? And mine was always like, I want to go back home. I want to be with my mom and my dad. That's what I want to pray for. And we would pray. And then we get back home that night and they would ask us, like, what did you pray for? And I'm like, well, I prayed I want to be back with my mom and my dad. And the dad turns around, looks at me like, quick, dude. And he goes, that's never going to happen. Stop asking for it. Stop wasting God's time asking to go back with your mom and your dad.
Yeah, dude. That's like angels in the outfield type stuff. Like, Dad, when are you coming back? When the Angels win the pennant, son.
Right. They're never going to win, right? No, they do. But so I'm like, all right, fuck. So then I'm just not going to tell you. So I would still go up there. I would still pray. They'd come back. What'd you pray for? I prayed to do good in school. Oh, that's really good. So, but I would and then I would see their actions in the church and then how they were at home, like what they would do to the kids and what they were doing to us and like how they were treating each other. Dude, it was just, I'm like, this is how religion is? Like, why the fuck would I ever believe in this? How can you, like, so I've always correlated to that still too. But for me, like, I do believe in a higher being. I do believe that we're all here for a reason. I do believe in universal laws. So I'm very, very partial to it all. But I don't believe in like, I got to go to a church and I got to pray and that's just me though. That's how I am, unapologetically.
Yeah. No, I think like if that's what's serving you and your family, there's nothing to apologize for, right?
Sure.
If there is a God and that God is a benevolent God, like that benevolent God actually wanted you to live a happy, productive life. And if it's serving you and your family optimally, why the fuck would that God be mad at you? That would make that God a dick. And because God
be hypocritical,
be a dick, that's not how it is, right?
It'd be hypocrisy at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so that God would cease to be God. And so therefore it is not that way. So what do you think was like, if you had to pick one of the most impactful points of your childhood, you're growing up, whether it's that time in foster care from 4 to 9 or thereafter, if there was one pivotal moment that more influenced you becoming who you are now than anything else, what would that moment be?
Fuck, that's a deep question. I don't think I've ever thought about that.
Take a minute.
I don't think it would be one moment. I think it'd be an accumulation of moments, accumulation of things that have happened. Because there's been a lot of people in my life that have helped me see the good and take the good and leave the bad. Like with foster care, like I saw the bad and how not to treat my family. So now I know how to do that. There's another person in my life, this Jenna and her mom, Julie, and her dad, Chris, like the way that their family life is and the way Julie raised the Jenna and Sean, like who are their family. They're not even friends, but they're family. Like, but how she raised them by letting them kind of like learn by trial by fire, not just like no you can. But where my family, it was like no you can't do that. If you don't do this, you're grounded. And like it was a much more like stern family environment. And now I can see how we both grew up to still be pretty good. So you can have that fluctuation in life. I've seen family members die due to drugs where one of my uncles, he had a bad drug deal. He didn't get all the money back that he needed to sell. My understanding, my mom told me that they showed up at a family reunion, put him in the back of a car, beat the shit out of him, and lit the car on fire. I have uncles that were homeless, never got out of it. They were in prison, never got out of it. They died after they got out of prison. Like, so there's just been an accumulation of things that I've seen around me where I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. No, thank you. Like, there's just all these moments in my life that have added up to help develop me into who I am. And then now I'm around people that are making millions. I'm getting mentored by people that are making billions. So now it's like taking those moments and taking those learnings and coupling it with everything else. It's really helped me kind of form who I want to be. The other side of it is my wife. My wife, she was born in Bosnia, which is a little country in Europe.
No.
She left Bosnia because of the war that was happening. Her dad helped them escape and all that. And so she came here when she was young. And like my wife has an amazing like touch on people and like seeing people and observing people. And so she's even helped me with honing in on my people skills quite a bit and all that. So dude, it's just been an accumulation of things. But I think for me is I'm adaptable. I'm because of my childhood, I had to adapt to the next family because I didn't stay with one family the whole time. I would switch families and I would move families. So I had to adapt to the new family and the new kids, and I had to adapt to the new school. So now that has transformed in my leadership style and my lifestyle. I can adapt to anybody I'm around. As you can kind of see, we're on live. I can adapt very well, but it's still me. It's still me being truthful. I'm not adapting to be a liar. I'm adapting because this is where the conversation is going. This is who I'm around. But it's just, I think it's just been an accumulation of things, man. It really has.
So what has there been? Is it still just an accumulation of things, or like as an adult, as you've entered the adult space, your adult life and not just professionally, but everything else too? Has there been any singular moment that was kind of a light bulb moment or kind of a paradigm shift where it was like, damn, that moment has impacted everything that's come after, or that experience has impacted everything that's come after?
Yeah, I would say the day that I was taken from my family and put into juvie and all that, that was the day. I think about that day quite a bit. Because I think about it now, like what if I went down that path and now the police are knocking on my door, taking away my 4-year-old son. Like I can't fathom that. You make, even now, I think that's why, like I just look at like, okay, I always look at the consequences of doing something. Like if I don't do this, this could happen. Do I want that for my family? You're right. Because we're an accumulation of the choices that we make. And that comes from, and I always go back to that day. Like my parents made a choice. They had a consequence. The consequence was they lost their kids for an extended period of time. So that I think that to hone in on your question and the answer, it would be that day when I was taken from my parents and put into the back of a cop car and taken to juvenile hall.
And that you think that like that's something you think about every single day. Like shit comes up and you're like, nah, do I really want that for my family? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like
I reflect on it. Maybe not every day, but when on TikTok it popped up like how often do you think of the Roman Empire time and all that stuff?
Dude, yeah.
I think about it all the fucking time. I'm like,
that whole trend.
Yeah, dude. When it popped up, Ariana came to me. She goes, "How often do you think about the Roman Empire?" I was like, now that you say it, I'm like, pretty fucking often actually. It comes up in my mind quite a bit. So it does pop up quite a bit. Yeah.
Dang, man. So I know, and this is something this is one of the moments that I was like, okay, I think I really like this Matt guy, was one thing that's always bugged me. I don't like, I'm so hot and cold with TikTok and, but that's obviously where we met and
yep.
Still hot and cold with it. But the more people I get to know there, it's interesting. 99.9% of them, dude, it's crazy to me. I'll get 20 invites a day to jump on some live at like 10 p.m. And it's like, I'm with my family. I've got
Yeah,
a smoking hot wife. I've got the two most beautiful boys, and yeah, they're in bed, but they're in bed sleeping sound because they know they have a dad sitting out here paying attention to shit. I'm not getting drunk at the bar. I'm not like off doing other things. Like somebody steps in this house, I'll put a 45 in their face. Like
correct.
I'm here, like I'm present. I'm with my
Correct.
family, you know? And that's one thing that I've respected about you as I've gotten to know you. I've heard there's a few times we've stayed up late hanging out and whatever on live, but more often than not, you're like, hey, I've got a hard stop. I'm going to go ride bikes with my kid. I'm going to go, like, I've really, really respected that out of you. What do you feel like your experience as a child has impacted your desire to be there and present for your family? Or why did you decide to make that such a priority?
Well, we work our asses off, right? And we work our asses off for our family. So what's the point if I'm going to be in my office 24/7 on live TikToks instead of going out and riding bikes with my boy? Because right now he's 6 years old. He's going to be 7 in a couple of months. This is the prime time to create those core memories for him. I remember going and riding bikes with my dad when I came back out of foster care. I remember going on hikes and collecting rocks with my dad once I was out. And I still remember those core memories of my life. So like I look back, I go, how many core memories can I create with my son? And I only have a finite time to create those core memories, and I'm not gonna fuck that up. So if it's 4:30 and my son's coming in here going, Dad, can we go ride bikes? Fuck yeah, let's go ride some bikes, buddy. Like if you're in the mood, let's go do it. Like I'm out. See you later. TikTok ain't going anywhere. So that's the way I look at it.
Dude, I love that. Follow-up question on that. Where would you rank your wife as a priority in everything you're doing? Because a lot of times, so you mentioned like, we're doing this for our family. And dude, we hear it so often. I hear it coming out of my own mouth. Like, babe, I'm gone because I'm doing this for you. But dude, this was a couple years ago. One of my best friends in the business, very influential individual in the space out of New York. His name is Matt, actually, Daly. And he's like, dude, you got to quit calling things a priority unless you're willing to prioritize them. And I was like,
Good.
fuck. It just kind of smacked me. And the last couple of years, I've been really trying to, how can I sit here and say that I'm doing it for my family and my family's a priority unless I'm going to do it for my family and my family's the damn priority, right? Have you had any of those pivotal moments that that kind of moment where it's like, I'm doing it for you, but then you realize that you're doing it for them so hard that you're not doing it for them anymore? Does that make sense?
Yeah. There was a time in the very beginning when our business started to explode where I had to sit her down and I go, I'm going to be very busy right now. I need your support here, because if I can get us through this moment in time, our lives won't look the same. And she's like, do what you need to do. And so then when we fast forward, my wife does everything for us. Like she takes care of the house. I can't remember the last time I've done laundry. I can't remember the last time I've washed the dish, vacuumed the house, cleaned a bathroom. Like, dude, I don't do none of that stuff. My job is to run our business. My job is to provide and protect. And she gets that. She loves that, right? So, and then eventually we're gonna, I've always been telling her, like, we just need to hire a maid. They can come every 2 weeks and clean. She's like, no, that's like my time to like decompress and do what I want to do. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Now I look at it this way too. So weekends, right? I have a saying in my business, I don't take days off, I take time off. So I'm in my business 24/7 in my chats, or reaching out to our business partners. Clients hit me up on the weekend, I'm answering, because it's moments here and there that might happen. But on the weekends, like, you cannot book time with me on a weekend unless I let you, right? And that's a client or a business partner. But my business partners know if you need me on the weekend, you can call me and I'm going to answer. You need to hop on a Zoom for an illustration or an appointment help or anything, like, hit me up. We're on Zoom in the next 5-10 minutes. If I'm out, then I can hop on my phone. Like, I can go anywhere with this shit. Like, it doesn't matter. So on the weekends, I let Ariana kind of figure out what she wants to do, and we plan around that. And then if things pop up in the business, like, she understands. If I'm with her, I'll handle that real quick, and then bam, I'm back with the family. Now, like, our date nights, that's kind of slipped away from us. That's something that we talked about in the new year. Like, we need to start having designated date nights. We need to start going on to some more concerts. But on the other side of that too, like, when we're going to Utah next month, her and Bennett are coming with me. So like, a lot of the traveling I do, they're with me. People don't see it, but she's with me 99% of the time. Yeah. So, Sedona, Arizona, like, they're probably going to be at that one too. So she's with me all the time. I'm home all the time. She's here all the time. And then at night, once I'm done with business, I'm sitting next to her. If I don't decide to hop on a live when someone sends me one, that's why I text out one night. I was like, I'm with my wife right now. Like, fuck off, like I'm with her, I'm with her. And then in the mornings, I go to the gym. I'm up at 5. I'm in the gym by 5:30, 5:45. I'm back home by 7:20, 7:30. I'm with Ariana and my son, getting him ready for school. Boom, we pop out to school. He's at school by 8, 8:20. And then I'm with Ariana. My day starts at 9, 9:30. Boom, do my thing, go out and see her whenever sporadically. At night, I'm with her again. So she gets a lot of the time, but it wasn't like that at first. It was like, babe, like I'm grinding. Like I can't take him to school right now. You go. And then I started scheduling some of that stuff in. So I made it a priority by scheduling a lot of that stuff in, and it actually started to really work. So now, is it perfect, bro? No, dude. There's still things that I want to work on. Like I want to take her on date nights every week. We want to do those types of things. And so we're going to start working that in. We just booked the date night for next Tuesday. When Bennett comes home, if I got nothing going on or no appointments, like, Dad, I want to go on a bike ride. Let's freaking go, dude. But that comes with business ownership, man. That's what a lot of people, I want people to see about this opportunity. Like you build it up and you do it right. You can get to a point of where like on the end, like you can make a shit ton of money being independent. But is that on my pen where I got to be in front of the computer 24/7? Or is that where I'm making $3 million a year passive and I've just built a badass organization full of amazing leaders that are going out and doing the work? So for me, like that's yeah, man, like it's been bumpy with that piece of it, but we've gotten 100 times better at it.
Yeah, dude, I can empathize with that. I know Camille and I, we go back and forth. We do really, really well on date nights, and then we do really horrible. And that's kind of been one of our things is we gotta get back on that. But we've been the last few years, and like next month, we're doing an inner circle meetup for our mastermind down in Vegas. And taking the whole family with. I went and, I go usually once or twice a month. I go all around the U.S. or whatever, and I go speak for somebody. I do a lot of speaking for NAFA, a little bit for Finesca and a couple others. And we've gotten to the point where it's like, well, shoot, if we can bring the whole family, we're homeschooling at this point again. We went back to homeschool instead of a regular school for a bunch of reasons, but it's like, shit, we don't even have to worry about school schedules. So if as long as we can line it up, let's just take the whole damn family. And like Vegas, her whole family is in Vegas. We used to live in Vegas. So it's like, well, shoot, let me send you down there for the week. I can't go for the whole week. I got work to do, but I'll be down like Wednesday, Thursday. We'll hang out for a couple days. I'll go do my inner circle meetups, and we might not spend a night or two together because when we do those inner circle meetups or quarterlies, and it's like, we're out till 2 a.m., Right. So I might as well just get a hotel room where we're at. You stay with your sisters or whatever. But then that thing's over, and I'll run back out, pick you guys up. We'll do some breakfast and then head home together. It's like it's crazy. But what most people in our business don't get, I wish they would get it. A lot of people join our business for financial freedom and then time freedom. And what they don't realize is that time freedom doesn't come because you got a goddamn license or an LLC. You have to purchase your time freedom. Every ounce of time you're not working costs you money. You have to be able to afford to buy your time freedom.
Correct.
So you got to get to work. Like you got to get to work. And it's kind of a weird dichotomy that I think a lot of people have a very hard time balancing, myself included at times, Yeah.
So, I think early on for a lot of people, it's that microwave mentality. Well, if I get my license and okay, I'll give you a good example. So we had a call, and someone asks me, she's like, hey, how would you handle this? One of our business partners, they want to start a website, and I didn't know how to direct them, and so they tell me who it is, and I'm like, let me ask you a question. This person doesn't really come to meetings. They haven't produced anything, and it's not for a lack of us pushing them. It's not for a lack of us giving them resources or education or coaching or training. It's a lack of effort. So if they're not putting the effort, they're not doing what they need to do. Why do they think building a website is going to bring them business all of a sudden? Like, this shit doesn't make sense to me. Like, so you got to put in the sweat equity. You got to put in the sweat work. You got to put in the mastering your craft. And then, like you said, that purchases, and you start to develop and you start to buy your time. And then you start to have passive income. Yeah, man, it's not like, it's all this microwave mentality bullshit that's been built up in our culture.
Dude, it's crazy too, because there's so many different like marketing pieces where it's like, well, if I just did that, I could blow up. And for sure, like having a website, like the biggest dudes out there have a website. Absolutely. Right. But that's not you. But when you're small, if you're not already making the money if you're not already in it, that's not a form of building your business. It's a form of call reluctance. You want to waste your time building a fucking website because you're too afraid to pick up the goddamn phone, you little pussy. Pick up
That's
the phone.
exactly right. Exactly right.
You wanna waste your time delivering donuts to mortgage lenders that aren't going to send you a goddamn referral because you're too afraid to go knock on somebody's door and put your hand in theirs and look them in the eyes and ask them face to face, hey, what is it you're doing for retirement? That's call reluctance. That's not an investment in your business. You do
Correct.
those things once you're established and you want to go further, but you can't put bricks on a foundation that doesn't exist. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
So I don't know. It's interesting, man. I'm going to name 3 names. Marry, fuck, kill. No, I'm joking. I'm serious.
Step Brothers?
Oh, shit, dude. Go.
I don't actually feel comfortable answering that question. We're the one doing the interview now.
Yeah. No, dude, I've got so many damn things I want to ask you. Like, we can go more into professional. We can go more personal. I'm trying to decide where I want to go with this. But I've got one question I feel like maybe I should have asked before we took a break, because now I interrupted the mood. And now that ketchup's been sitting on the paper a little too long. It's a little too acidic. I don't know.
You just got to mix it now, and it's back to normal.
Yeah, like a guac that's got a little brown on top.
It's still good.
I mean, next day guac is never as good as same day guac.
That's true. That's true.
I don't care how much you mix it. I don't care how green it gets.
You got a good point. But ask the question anyways. Let's get into it. Let's do it.
Yeah, dude. So what's made you successful? If there was one fucking trait, one characteristic, one thing you've done that's made you successful more than anything else, what would it be? If you had to go back and do it again, and you had to make all the same fuck ups you made, except for one thing, what one thing would you choose to not fuck up on from day one?
I don't quit, dude. I'm relentless in that, and that's like if I'm dead set on something and my mind is made up, I'm gonna get it done. It may not get done in a week, but I'm gonna get this shit done.
So like give me an example that as it pertains to, maybe give me a couple examples. One, as it pertains to this business. So people, because let's be honest, most of the people tuning into this are probably folks that either follow me or you, but relentless as it pertains to this business. And I'm talking about as it pertains to like day-to-day grind, like an actual motherfucking example, but also relentless as it pertains to maybe life. Like, did your wife not want you and you had to like be relentless and hide out in her bushes for a while? Or I don't know. Like, just give us a few different examples hitting some of those different F's.
Let's see. So I'll give you, let's start with professional. So in 2020, was it 2022 now? Yeah. Was it 2022? Yeah, it had to have been 2022. So in 2022, we went into a retreat, and on that retreat, Eric was there, and I asked him a question, and it was about, he always wore his, because in a lot of the IMOs, they give you rings for cash flow milestones and all that. So he always wears 3 million. Like, he wore it every single day. And this time he's already making 10, 11 million dollars a year. So I'm like, why do you always wear the 3 million? And so he's like, ask in front of the group. So he asked in front of the group, and he goes, well, it tells a whole story. It comes down to his mentor told him, what are you willing to give up to accomplish your goals? Right. And so for him, it was like sports. He stopped watching sports. He stopped playing sports. He stopped doing anything sports related until he got to 3 million. And when he started focusing and diving into just that, he went from 1 million to 3 million in the next, year or so. So then he went around the room. He's like, what are you willing to give up to get your next milestone? And so for me, it was alcohol. And it's not like I drank a lot anyways. Like, it was a very social drinker, like maybe once a month, maybe once every other month, maybe once a quarter. Like, so I wasn't drinking a lot. And, but it was still like when I would drink. So I was like, I'll give up alcohol. No big deal. And everyone else kind of followed. They all were like, alcohol. And my goal was no alcohol until I get to 750 in cash flow, like income to my bank, 750 in a 12-month period. So that was 2022. And from then on, we just put our head down, boom, 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 grinding. December 2023, we ended the year at 780 in cash flow, right? And so I could have picked up drinking. And that whole year, we went on 27 trips that year. Some of them weren't even with the business. It was just me, Ariana, and Bennett. I could have had Corona. I could have drank. No one would have known. But the thing is, I would have known. And I wouldn't have been able to sit in front of people like I still don't drink, right? So even to this day, now it's 2025, and I still haven't had any alcohol. So for me, like, I've completely cut it out. I don't see a reason for it for me anymore. So that helped me in that regard. So it was just being relentless of like, I have a goal. I want to be able to say I accomplished it. So we went after it and after it and after it. And in that month in December, we usually go to Lake Tahoe for New Year's Eve. And so we're in Lake Tahoe and I've been following up on this case for like a month and a half, dude. And it was on its final stages of APS. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to miss this, dude. This is like, I have nothing else hitting. I need this to hit. If this hits, we're done and we hit it. 6:00 in the morning, the very last day of the year, dude. This is the 31st of the year or 30th, whatever. I get an email at 6:00 in the morning that the APS has been done and it was emailed to the client. And I call that fool right away. I was like, I need you to send that to me like right now. And he's like, it's already in your inbox. I get it. I send it to the carrier. I call the carrier because I have a very like close relationship with a regional person. And I was like, I just sent you the APS. Can you please get this reviewed? I looked at it before I sent it to you. He's clear. Like this shit's going to get approved. I need it. We need it. We need it. We need it. So she does it. I'm texting her every 30 minutes. Are we good? Every 30. Are we good? Are we good? So around like 8:30, I get the go ahead that it was approved. Dude, I'm on the phone and we're swimming now at this point because there's an indoor pool. It's snowing and everything. I'm swimming. I see my watch, my iWatch light up. I look at Ariana. I go, I need to go to the room. Book it to the room. Get on a Zoom with the client. Finalize everything. He approves the draft. He likes everything. Boom, done. Hit it. Like that fucking relentless. You know, like I could have just been like, chill. It's all good. We're going to miss it. It's approved. We'll just get it delivered later. Like, no, motherfucker.
We'll go through next month.
Yeah, no, motherfucker. I'm going to get it done right now.
That is literally, not to the T, but so similar to my first, I wouldn't say my first breakthrough case. My first breakthrough case was actually a $100,000 single premium mech. That's the first time I realized that I could solve problems big enough for people to hand me checks that were 6+ figures. That was a real big breakthrough moment for me back in 2015. But my first breakthrough moment where it was like something like that, like you're talking about, it was a 10 pay case, 10 pay, 160 a year, and 160 was actually the 7 pay. So we were relying on performance in the market to push the mech threshold, which a lot of people don't understand that. But it's like, hey, if the market doesn't perform, we can't put more in. If the market does perform, we can put more in.
Yeah.
But just kind of interesting. But it was that way. It was like December 30th, and I think we were down in not Sedona, but a couple hours east of Sedona. My family has a big ranch. My mom's side of the family has a big ranch in the kind of the White Mountains there in northern Arizona, Sholo area, Pine Top.
Okay.
And we were there, and it was like that shit came through. I didn't have service. I had to leave the ranch, drive into town into Sholo, post up at a Denny's, and make that shit happen. And like you, had a good relationship with underwriting and case management, which agents undervalue what having a good relationship with an underwriter and a case manager will do. And it doesn't take brownies and cookies to get you there. It takes sending over a lot of business and business that stays on the books.
And being nice. Fucking A. Yeah. Be nice to these people.
Yeah, don't be dicks to them. Just like, hey, I'm not mad at you. I'm frustrated at the situation. What can we do to move this thing along?
Yeah,
right?
dude. Yeah.
But very similar in that case. Like there's been a lot of moments that have changed my life, but that case kind of changed my life because it was like, damn, I am willing to do what it takes and I'm going to do what it takes. But also because I'm willing to do what it takes, I can afford to do the other things in the meantime too. Because like I got done with that little appointment, shut that thing off, ran back out to the ranch, hung out with the wife and kids, didn't even think twice because that shit was done. It wasn't even freaking on my mind.
And the thing that I want people to understand is it wasn't even about the money. Like that case that we closed, it was a very big case. I didn't give a shit about the commission payout. It was the principle of like, we're helping this family. What they're getting set up for was phenomenal. Even when we did the Zoom, when I was back in the hotel room, he was like, man, I'm fired up even again, seeing it right now. And like, all right, awesome. Like it was about the milestone. It was about pushing. It was about the fact that we worked for the last 13, 14 months to hit a milestone, and we just did it. And my wife was supportive. We still traveled all year. And like I did this in Lake Tahoe. And then right when I was done, went right back down in my shorts and jumped in the pool. Like, you fucking kidding me?
Oh, dude, there's so many cool things there. And then like on IUL, right? There was one year, again, December, I think this was December of 19. Was it December of 19 when the government shut down for a little bit? Was that 18?
Probably. It was around like all the COVID shit. Yeah. 2020 maybe.
Yeah, I think it was December in 19 or 18. The government shut down. There was a government shutdown, and then it fired back up literally like the next month. Maybe it was 18 because COVID we hit real well on too. People are like, you can't time the market. No, I can't, but I can look at shit that happened and realize like,
Go down.
what goes down comes back up. So I had this client, big IUL case. It was like $250,000 per year, 4-pay, 5-pay, something like that. And they were really concerned. The biggest concern wasn't even longevity. It was the first 5 years. Will this thing perform as illustrated? And we had illustrated at like 5.5%, right? So we're like, hey, your money's going to average 5.5%. Well, your net money, because there's fees and all this other stuff, but your net money's going to average 5.5%. And they were like, well, if we can do that, then this whole thing works. But if we can't hit 5.5 the first 5 years, we're screwed. We're screwed, right? So I think it was 18 or 19. December of 18 or 19, government shut down. Thing was done and done. We were on vacation, but it was like, I got to run. It wasn't even about the commission. It's like, hey, the government shut down. And because it shut down, the way these indexes work, right, you have starting point and ending point on a segment. And it was like, shit, the government's shut down and S&P had dropped off like 30, 40%, right? And it was still hanging out there. And it was like, dude, it's literally just waiting on them to pass a damn bill. And then it flips back up, right? So we went, it's something I probably normally wouldn't have done, but left vacation, came back, knocked that shit out. We got that thing done. What that did is it started their S&P segment clear down here where their money didn't experience a loss, but it started the floor here. And over the next year, even without market gain, they picked up like 30% without any market gain. That was just returning to normal. But then the market also performed as well. This was like a 40% segment on 100% participation, uncapped with I think at the time was a 6.5% spread.
Here you go.
In 1 year, we picked up enough interest crediting to literally lock in and be like, okay, for the next 5 years, we can earn literally nothing, which, by the way, that wasn't the case. It's earned every single year, some better than others. But because of that one first year, that one moment of, I'll do whatever it takes to get this client this outcome, and what an opportunity. Like, it's an instance of buying the dip with an insurance product, for example.
Yep.
But because of that, it was like, hey, for the next half decade, we've already met their expectations. Anything else from here on out is cherry on top. That client's been one of my biggest referral bases for the last 7 freaking years. It's been incredible, but it came from, again, like go back to your thing, resilience. Whatever it takes, I will do whatever it takes. And it's not just, I like how you put it, it's not just for my commission or outcome, it's for the outcome of the client. My commission is the happy coincidence, associated with that. But
correct.
I think that's a cool perspective. So
that's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's cool. That's a good question.
Dude, let's dive into IUL for a minute, because that's your thing. That's your
IULs are gay, bro.
I think you get horny on IUL. So if IULs are gay and you get horny on IUL, what does that make you?
Shit.
A fucking pervert.
All right, you got me there. I'm caught, bro. I'm caught.
Yeah, I realize. Bent over a barrel of apple cider.
Got your filthy little mouth. You're sharing with all your viewers all your wishes and dreams.
No, they know exactly who the fuck I am, because I show up every day the same. So what got you so hell-bent on IUL, other than you could argue everybody that comes through an organization like WFG ends up hell-bent on a product like IUL. You could argue that.
Yeah.
But for every 100 people that come through WFG, 99 of them don't even make it 3 fucking years. And of the 1 out of 100, or maybe not 99, but the majority don't. And for the ones that do, a lot more of them tend to focus. They find a lot more strength on the trans side of things, where they're pushing a lot of AUM and some other stuff, which is fine. Like, that's their model. But I would say you're one in 1,000 when it comes to folks that come through that pipeline, not just grabbing the product and wanting to sell it, but actually mastering it, being able to have an intelligent conversation. And this isn't to prop me up, but there are very few, like we're talking probably industry wide that I'm aware of at this point. And I know lots of people, it's probably less than 50 people I can talk to with any, like across any companies that can actually have an intelligent, intuitive conversation about the product.
Yeah.
What made you decide to become one of those people?
Well, I mean, if I'm going to take this serious, I'm going to make this my life's work. I need to know exactly what I'm using. I need to know exactly what it does. And I need to know that in 10, 15, 20, 30 years, the people I set up in this plan aren't going to come hunt me down and kill me because it didn't work. So for me, I just started diving heavily into, I wouldn't say started, because in the first, couple of years of my career, I just read the basic books and I wasn't working on, like we talked about that in the beginning of this podcast. I wasn't working on master my craft. I was just going through the motions of like getting people in, and I would actually like field train in the office, and I would take people through onboarding, and then they would quit. And I'm like, so I was working on master my craft, but it wasn't so much of like, I wanted to master it so that I could actually do this full time. But once COVID came, I started in the IUL Insiders Masterclass with Doug Andrew and all that. And I got a hold of his book and I read his book. And then I started going through his master series and his master class that is just through his courses you have to actually like buy to get into. And I took the whole thing and I watched it, and it explained TEFRA, DEFRA, TAMRA. It explained all the tax codes and how they were built. And it goes all the way back to all. And I was like, I've never learned any of this, but it started to click for me why IULs could be so amazing for people. For everybody? No, it doesn't fucking work for everybody, okay? I'll say that, and most people are going to come back to this clip and they're going to go, see, he said it isn't for everybody. No, it's not.
Yeah, they're going to, dude, it's that one sound bite they needed.
I'm happy that they got that, because they can still go chase what they're chasing. But, but I also have a second side of that. It should be set up for somebody that makes $50,000 a year, but they shouldn't be putting 20, 30% of their income into it, right? Because here's the thing. If I make 50 grand a year and I already know I'm not starting a business and I'm not going to grow my wealth extensively and I'm just going to have a 9-to-5, but I want to pass on some legacy for my family to start. If someone just listens to the concept of buy a permanent policy, take 20% of that, 30% of that, 40% of that, whatever you want when you die, and put it into a trust where the trust makes you open a more permanent insurance. Dude, you look up 10, 20, 30 years from now into the next couple of generations, look what you just built through permanent life insurance. Look at the legacy. Your family is not going to be the same. Can you say that with other strategies and deferred strategies? And no, you can't, because it isn't guaranteed. So my mindset is like, yeah, it's not going to build the wealth for that person that makes 50 grand a year in that life frame. And they should have other investments to help get their wealth up. Yes, 100%. But when they pass away, it's going to give that next of kin the opportunity to be able to go build something bigger. Because if my parents had that ability, or they had something set up, and now look at me and my parents passed away and they're passing along $1 million, $2 million, bro, it's hello. You know what I mean? So, and then I'm forced to take that money and open up more policies, and then I can do so that's just the way I look at it. But I also look at where America is at with savings, retirement, all those vehicles. The majority are failed. The majority don't have enough to even rub 2 nickels to retire. Did it work for a lot of people? Yeah, it did. But it can't look who's set up the retirement strategies. Who manages, who put these plans in place and said you should put all your money into these plans? The government. Look at the shit the government's done for us so far. Then I started diving deeper into DEFRA, right? I was doing a little bit of this on my live, and it just kind of cements more of it for me. DEFRA, the Deficit Reduction Act, right? 1986. Well, why did the government enact that? Because people were using insurance, cash value life insurance, as a tax shelter, or they were looking at it as an investment. So the government stepped in and said, no, you can't do that no more. Now there's thresholds, now there's requirements, because we want you putting your money where? When did the 401k come out? 1978. Okay, motherfuckers. And then they reduced all the shit. Like so when I started looking at all this stuff and put it together and logically thinking about it, dude, they could have just reduced the threshold. They could have kept everything the same and just said, all right, we like that you can do this with the stuff. You could only put in 200,000 and still keep the same guidelines, max. But no, they reduced the shit out of it. You need to have all this insurance to be able to put in all this amount of money. And then they refined it again later where now you can have less insurance and put in more money. So Yeah, man. I just look at what it's done. I look at whole life and where that started. You look at annuities. Annuities came out during the Roman Empire. Those times, this shit's been around forever. Um, so I just look at everything in the past and the history of it and where it's come and evolved. Again, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Because you have people involved, and that's a big part of it. You have variables that are involved that nobody can control. So is it perfect? No. But can it help you and your family in these areas where planners are saying you need 18 different strategies to make sure your wealth transfers the right way? And you have people like you and I were like, well, you can use those 18 strategies along with these two, and these two are going to actually do what those 18 could also do. And these have a lot more guarantees than those other 18, just for example. So that's kind of where my mindset comes around it.
Yeah. What made you want to dive in? Because so like you mentioned, you went and did a study on DEFRA, and I did it out of sheer desperation. I jumped into business. I got out of auto repair where I was making a very good living, owning, like I had my own auto repair shops and different things. I was working 80 to 100 hours a week, right? I got out of the business, jumped in on this side, and didn't just jump in like doing it part-time till I could afford to. I jumped in overnight and did a little bit of an internship, and that internship was a paid internship, but I got paid $2,000 a month. By the way, I still had SBA loans from my shops I had to pay down. So I had to bring in $8,000 a month just to like cover my bills before I even got to take money home, right? So that paid internship didn't do dick for me. But dude, like by the time I was 6-7 months in the business, my savings was spent. Because I didn't know how to save. I was making decent money, but I didn't know how to save. I had a little bit, but I was just flat desperate. I was on the verge of bankruptcy, divorce, foreclosure, and I begged my wife. I was like, I realize you want to leave me because I'm being a dick. The money's bad, and I'm being an asshole. Give me 90 days to figure this out. And if I can't figure it out in 90 more days, I'll go back to auto repair. I've got all my connections. I've got all my tools. I could start another shop up overnight, right? And to her credit, she gave me 90 days. And in that 90 days, that's one of the things I did. I showed up at the office every day, 5 a.m. And from 5 to 9 a.m., I would study. Well, like the first few days I showed up and I had no idea what to study. I didn't have somebody that was like, oh, go check this out, go check. So I just like stared at the wall, stressing like, I can't sell this stuff. Who do I sell it to? Like, what do I talk about? So one of the first things I did was I printed out an illustration and I highlighted everything I didn't know. And the reason I printed an illustration is because it was free for me to do that. And I had no other resources that I knew to use. But I knew, like, here's this piece of paper I'm supposed to be selling. I should at least understand that. Yeah, printed it, highlighted every word, every phrase, every concept I didn't understand. And that was my study material, 4 hours a day, 5 to 9 a.m., Monday through Saturday, for like a freaking month. And then when I ran out of that, by the time I'd gotten through that, like I was already on to the next problem, right? But that's why I started studying those things. That's where I learned about TAMR, TEFR, DEFR. That's where it kind of kicked off for me. What kicked it off for you to say, specifically, I'm going to go study DEFR? Because I'm going to tell you, Matt, I coach and mentor and train hundreds and thousands of agents from all these companies. When we start talking cash value life insurance, the first thing I tell them to do is print an illustration, read it, and understand it. And when we ask for like, hey, show of hands, how many of you're 30 years in the business, how many of you have ever read an illustration? How many of you can ever talk about the difference between these sets of tax code or whatever? It's not even 1%. So my question to you is, what was the thing that motivated you to do that in the first place?
I mean, one is I had an exorbitant amount of time now because it was COVID and I was at home, and I realized there was a difference between me and everybody else that was killing it. They knew that they mastered their craft. So my buddy who's in business with me, his name's Hassani Houston. Guys, he's a stud. He's been in the industry 10, 11 years now, but he saw one of Doug's webinars and he's like, dude, hop on it with me. Let's check it out. And I was like, all right, but if it's a recruiting thing, I'm gone, bro. And he's like, no, me too. Let's check it out. So we watched it. And then that was kind of like the moment where I was like, you know what? Like maybe because some of the stuff he was talking about, I was like, what the fuck is TEFRA, DEFRA, TAMR? I don't know what that is. It's with tax codes, I only know 7702. There's more. I didn't know 72 and 101 and what the hell. So that for me, I was like, I thought I knew a good amount, but I was way behind. I knew how to run an illustration, but I didn't know that you could minimum on MEC increase. I knew about increasing level. I didn't know how to take out a loan and repay it back in an illustration. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. So it kind of humbled me. And I'm like, all right, like I see why I'm making what I'm making, where I'm at, because I haven't mastered it fully yet. So that was the moment for me. Then I got into it. I started watching a lot of it. Then I started practicing deeper on illustration software. To your credit, like, know the damn illustrations, know what's in it, know how to read them, because I would even use the illustration and read it right to the client and go, this is how the loans work. Well, what's that guarantee? Why is there a zero? What does it mean guaranteed? Well, they're telling you that no matter what, you're guaranteed 0%. So if that index goes backwards, the most they're going to give you is zero. So you won't lose anything based on index performance. You just won't gain anything either. So like reading those things was game changer. So I just dove into that material to your point. Like, I had a place to go study. You didn't. And I watched the whole thing. I took the entire exam, passed it. Then I started diving into illustration software deeper. And I spent about a week and a half. I would wake up in the morning. I would get into illustration software and I would create a scenario. I would create that scenario and I would scale back the return to like 5%. And then I would look at like a 9% 401k. So a lot of times people go, why are you comparing IULs to stock-based accounts? Well, if your stock-based account does 9% uninterrupted, and I'm showing a 5%, and it still smokes you on income, the fuck are we talking about here? So, like, for me, I looked at all that stuff, and then I figured out how to take loans early for like the family banking concept, right? I figured out how to take out loans, and I figured out how to repay it. Nobody was teaching this. Nobody was teaching how to do this. And then I learned how to take zeros and put zeros in the policy for 3 years in a row, and then put it back to normal return. Because that was one of the objections to like, well, if it gets zeros in three years in a row, the policy is going to collapse, blow up, and it's done. So I'm like, well, let's test that theory. So I Monte Carlo it, put it in there, 5%, zeros 3 years in a row, still was perfectly fine. So my conviction level went through the roof because I started studying these areas and mastering it and seeing how it all actually works. Then I had proof of concept because I put a shit ton of money into it. Now I have clients putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into it. Like, it was just a no-brainer.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, man. What's the number one objection you get? Not from other people on TikTok or Instagram. We're connected on Instagram now. By the way, you've got a hell of a fucking following. I suck at Instagram. I suck at social media in general, but you've done a phenomenal job of building a following. What's the number one objection you get when you're talking to Ma and Pa?
Yeah. And I appreciate that, by the way, brother, because I've worked my ass off to build that, and it still has a long way to go, but it's different now because a lot of the people I'm sitting with, like, I sat with a couple clients today, or not today, this week, like both of them, one's putting $200,000 a year into an executive bonus plan. Sat with another guy yesterday, $200,000 a year. I mean, their objection is not the same as somebody who wants to put, $1,000 a month into a plan. It's like that saying, like, you sit with somebody who understands money or they're rich and you tell them, hey, you've been approved, we got to send the money. And they go, all right, send it. And then you have someone that's not so wealthy and you tell them it's, it's ready to go. And they go, well, how about this? How about this? How about this? And they question everything. It's kind of the same concept. So different markets have different questions, but the normal client, they want to know their basic objection or question is like, how do they do it? How can they guarantee that you're not going to lose money? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? I would say that would be like the number one question is how do they do it?
So what's your rebuttal to that? How can they guarantee that you never lose money?
My rebuttal is call Carson Porter. He'll tell you.
That's right. That's right.
Call Carson. No, it depends on
mechanisms, right?
There is. But you again, if you understand it, you can break it down very simple. So I keep it down in layman's terms because I could draw out the entire general account portfolio with call options and put options if it loses or if it grows, all that. I could draw that whole thing out. I have it like in my heart memorized. So I just break it down like this, like Carson. So the way indexing works, and by the way, this has been around for a long time. So it's not like this was just created in a year ago, but the way that this strategy works has been around for a long time. IUL has been around since 1997. So it's been in operation for a while, but very, very general. What they do is they have a general account portfolio. That general account portfolio on average does 6 to 7%. Some years it might do 5, but on average it's doing 6 to 7%. Most of the money is going into that general account portfolio. If your account earns or if that index earns, then they're going to base that growth on the amount of money you have in your policy, and they're going to credit you that interest. If that option loses based on that index and that index performance, well, they re-earned and recaptured your money with that general account portfolio that they used to buy those options. So they're just reimbursing you with the general account portfolio. So you get a 0% return that year. That's layman's terms of how they're doing it. And they go, okay. Now, and then I always explain a little bit further. Why do you think that they don't do this with 401ks and IRAs? Because they could. They could build a pool of general account portfolios built into your stock portfolio where they can guarantee you get a 0 if the markets go backwards. Why don't they do that? Because they make fucking money. Even when you lose, you got to pay them.
Yeah, well, and on the flip side, like there are brokerage accounts, there are investments on that side that are buffered investments, right? You can buy a buffer. That's all it is. You're buying a buffer. It's just a better buffer.
Yes, 100%. So by the time I get down that road and they generally understand it, if they're still a little bit kind of confused, then I'll pull up the iPad and I'll draw it out for them. But generally, that's how that's it. The 1997 brings credibility that it's been around for a while now. This is how they've been doing it, and this is how they'll continue to do it. And honestly, the strategy's gotten better over time because it was dog shit in 1997, 1998, 1999, and now it's gotten a lot better.
Well, dude, you want to hear some real shit? So Trans is the one that penned it in 97. However, it was white papered. It was a white paper product in 63 and had a 5-year run before it was shelved.
I didn't know that.
That's a 63. 63. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I'm not even sure which company. I've been told which company, and this is hearsay, but this is hearsay from a gentleman who was the president of Gamma for like 15 years, who sat on those boards, who now works on a board with a major carrier, and that carrier is supposedly one of the ones that they white papered it and issued it for. They had like a 4 or 5 year run at it as a behind the scenes product. You had to be an accredited investor. It was a different kind of product back then, but going all the way back to the 60s. So I'm not going to say like it's been around since the 60s. I'm going to say the idea has been around since the 60s. So you had a 30-year run up, 35-year run up of figuring out how to even bring it to market effectively, really, before it came to market. And then you had some time that it took to come to market and be more effective. And then a lot of people bitched and moaned because commissions went down. When AG 49 came around in 2015, everybody cried. AG 49 made the product better. AG 49A made the product better. AG 49B made the product better. It didn't just force compliance. Like you've got all these people out there that are like, oh, it's forced compliance. It made the product better. It made carriers put pieces in the product, put additional guarantees and allocation options and different things in the product that made it inherently better. So, there's some cool things there, but it is a complicated product for anyone. I don't know what your feelings on this are. I'd like to hear your feelings.
Okay.
Anyone that thinks IUL is a simple product, I don't think is being honest. The first time, so that big sell that I made, right? I had $160,000 a year, 10 pay. I left vacation. I ran over to that gal's house where she had her CFP and attorney sitting at the table. Like policy was issued and done. They were going over it and wanted to make sure it was just buttoned down, dialed in. They were going over not just the illustration, but the actual policy contract.
Okay.
And then we sat there for like 4 hours. They'd already been there for like 4 hours going over everything. And we went over every question, and thank God for those hard times in my life prior to that where I had to go do the study so that I could answer the damn questions, right? But that's how I got that first one done. It was a grilling. I walked in and her attorney is an estate planning attorney who also spent 25 years with Northwestern Mutual. So it's not like he was an idiot when it came to cash value life insurance, right? Her CPA was a dude that was very familiar with cash value life insurance. The first thing they said to me when I walked in was, and this was 2015 on an IUL, this was 2016. They were like, this is really neat, but this is super complicated. We have a lot of questions. Do you have time to answer them? And I was like, yeah. And it is. Those old IUL illustrations, they were like 80 pages.
Yep.
80 fucking pages.
Yeah.
It's a complicated product. What are your thoughts on that, on the complications, the nuances versus the simplicity? The concept is simple. The product is not so simple.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think at first the product is not so simple, but when you start to master your craft like you and I have and a few other people, then it's a very simple product, right? But the nuances of it, the levers that can be pulled, it's not simple. As a user, like for my IULs, like it is simple. Like I just make sure it's running, make sure I fund it, make sure I need to change allocations. They change allocations. Like But what I'm realizing is it's not so simple because the people that are all over social media bashing it, they clearly cannot understand the nuances of it. They clearly cannot understand the benefits of it and how to make that simple, because if they could, then they would better understand how to use it or deflect it or whatever their goal is. But I think that it's only so complicated because people cannot wrap their mind around, like, it's life insurance. Yeah, but there's also these other 3, 4, 5 components. You have people don't understand the difference between CVAT and GPT. Okay, that's complicated. When do I use CVAT? When do I use GPT? Well, the other one is like, well, you only get the cash value or the death benefit. Well, if it's level, but then it's a net amount of risk. So then your cash value is eating away your net amount of risk. Yes, it doesn't reflect the death benefit, but eventually that death benefit will all be yours. And then it could still start to grow because you have a corridor of death benefit to cash value. So let's get to that corridor so that it can start to increase, and it kept costs low. But if you don't want to do that, you can increase it. You can do increasing. And like the changes of indexes, you can do dollar cost averaging, which is different than normal. But dude, there is so many things involved in a policy that you can do. But once you break it down and you know those different nuances and you can explain it very simple, then you start to understand it's no different than a 401k. 401ks are not simple. It's not as simple as just slamming $100 a month to do it. It's going to do its thing.
Yeah, well, put your money in a target fund. Well, what's a target fund? What makes up a target fund? How do they build?
Put your money into a brokerage, and then you can pull the principal back out. Well, we had a CFP. It goes, no, it's not that easy just to pull your money back out. You got to know which shares to sell, because if you sell the wrong ones, those could have been your capital gains ones. Now you're in capital gains tax. So you got to know first FIFO, LIFO. You got to know which ones to take out to stay in that principal, so you don't have taxes. You're in the 0%. So, dude, it's not as cut and dry as everybody wants to make it, no matter where your money is sitting. But as a consumer, it's your job, whoever you're sitting with, to understand what you're putting your money into. And it's not right to go back to the agent and go, well, he didn't teach me, it's his fault. No, motherfucker, it's just as much your fault that you didn't read the shit as somebody else.
That's something I'm a big proponent of, is consumer responsibility. Like, it's your money. Yeah, you're the one that busted your fucking ass for 40 years to put that together. Do you not feel like you had any responsibility when it came to understanding the product before? Like, literally, you were given every disclosure, legally speaking. So, like, everyone's like, oh, look at all these lawsuits. Do you want to know why 99.9% of lawsuits against insurance companies fail? But also 99.9% of lawsuits against Wall Street brokers, and why do they fail? Because disclosures were made, but the consumer didn't fucking read it. If you spent 40 years putting that together, but you couldn't take a week of your life to read it like I did back in my day when I was going bankrupt, read it, look at all the shit I didn't understand, highlight it, and go study it for a week so I could know what I was doing with the last 40 years of my life. Shut the fuck up.
Like, and what's crazy is even after you read it, because it could have went two ways. You could have read all that stuff and been like, ew, like that mean, like, brother.
Right.
But you read it and you were like, this shit's amazing. I got it now. I'm going, you know what I mean? So yeah, dude, to that point, like, consumers got to take their, now again, on the other side of that is, if you're a dirtbag agent and you're misleading them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're just a dirtbag.
Absolutely. But I think consumers need to take more responsibility. I think consumers need to take as much responsibility as they're asking from their professionals.
Correct.
And professionals on both sides of the coin need to take that responsibility. Correct. So,
yep, agreed.
I like that perspective, man. I do like that perspective. What's next for you, dude? What's the next big thing? I know you're producing a little bit less now, still producing very well, but you're growing team, you're building an organization. What's next for you?
An IUL OnlyFans. Think about it. Think about it.
You're gonna have a lot of hairy knuckled old white men jerking off to your porn.
Totally kidding. No, that's not even. I don't think my wife would approve of that one. But
have you asked her?
No, but I will when she gets back. That's a good idea. There's a lot of money in OnlyFans. We're missing the market there, Carson. For me, dude, it's just head down right now. We're very, very, very dead set focused on building out the team and getting them to where they want to go. And we're making very big headway on that. And that's, one thing that I'm very dead set focused on is attracting people in the industry that are not, getting the leadership. They're not getting the mentorship. They're not getting the right direction. They're not getting the right coaching and education because I've never been in a position where I could recruit a licensed agent and mentor them. My last company, like you try to bring in a licensed agent and they're literally laughing at you. Like, you're with WFG, bro. Like, fuck out of here. Now it's like, I'm not there. We are growing very fast. We do have a lot of stability. We have a lot of great things happening. If it was good for your family, good for your agents and their family, and it made sense professionally, why wouldn't you want to make a move? So we're very much attracting bigger players into the company right now. So the goal right now is $1 million a month of income, a little bit of active, a lot of passive. And then from there, we're going to reassess all the goals, sit down, reassess, see what that looks like, and then double it up and get to $2 million a month of income and then kind of go from there. So that's where we're heading out right now. Once the ownership play comes into play into April, that's going to be a big thing too for us and our business partners and everybody involved. So that's going to be pretty cool. And I'm very excited to share that. So that's professional. Family wise, man, like my wife and I, we're all on the same page with the business and what we're growing here. She's all in on everything and she's helped me plan a lot of the retreats right now. It's making sure my son is growing up, understanding what we're doing, doing affirmations with him every morning, getting him just to be somebody that understands what he wants in life, understand what's right, what's wrong, just all that kind of good stuff with him. But that's where I see it.
More? Do you guys want more?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we want to shoot for one more.
Do you know how to make that happen? Do you need me to have like a private conversation with you?
Yeah. Can we do some coaching on that? Can you show me? Yeah, I need you to show me.
If I show you, though, you're probably going to get your prostate milked. Listen, I'm here to help.
I didn't say I was going to be the subject matter. I just said I need you to show me.
If we're going to get it done, let's get it done. We don't need to pussyfoot around it, okay?
Yeah, you're right. Just close it up, bro. Hurry up.
Yeah, let's spill that seed and move on. But, Matt, are you blushing?
No. Am I?
I don't know. I can't. Nah, dude. You guys have any kind of time? Are you waiting to try for another kid to hit some benchmarks or just kind of waiting to see, like, if it happens, it happens?
Yep. We're not strapping up. We're not none of that stuff. It's spray and let's see what happens. Are you blushing?
I am now. You use strap and spray in the same sentence. I'm gassed. My God, I've got some redhead in me too, so I get really flushed out. Oh, dear Lord, forgive me.
Forgive me. This what is this now rated R on your podcast now?
Oh no, I'm pretty sure this podcast is rated explicit for sure. For sure. We say all sorts of words here. Yeah.
This will have to be the segment you put in the very beginning to create the hook, and then they'll watch the rest of it.
Dude, I'm pretty sure the title of this one might be like just strap up and spray seed.
Shit.
Matt, this is what you're going to be known for.
Yeah, I know, right? They're like, this guy's actually kind of weird.
That's going to be the name of your agency over at GFI. It's going to be the Seedling Agency.
The Seedlings.
Or the Seed Me Agency.
Yeah.
Painting faces. My God. You're so gross.
Oh,
so gross.
That was gross.
Yeah, that was awful. All right, dude. Time to get into some real shit. Real shit.
Okay.
If you died today, is there anything your wife would feel like you left undone?
Probably.
What would it be?
Couldn't tell you.
But if you could, what would it be?
That's a good question. Now I'm gonna have to ask her. That's a solid ass question. If I died today, would there be anything that? Yeah, one would no. We didn't have another child.
Well, strap up.
Yeah. No, it's not for a lack of trying. I can promise you that. That's why I don't hop on lives late at night. You know what I mean? So I would say that would definitely be one of them. I mean, dude, I don't know where to go with this answer. Like, I think that'd be the only one. Did I live a perfect life? No. Do I have beef with anybody? No. My circle is very small. The people that I associate with is very small. So it's not like there's anybody that I need to go to forgive and have conversations with on stuff like that. Did I build our business to where we want it to be right now at this point in time? Yes. But if I pass away right now, probably not. I don't know, man. That's a fucking great question. I'm going to have to ask her now because I want to know the answer. I don't know, dude.
It's one that deserves to be had, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually going to text this to myself so I can ask her. What was the question again? If I died,
what would your wife feel like you left undone?
Great question. I'm going to ask my wife. It's a great question.
Dude, you can start asking your clients that one too. That's been a good question for me over the years, by the way.
Asking your clients to answer that question? If they died today, what would they feel is left undone?
What would their wife or their spouse, their significant, what would your kids feel like you left undone? Or I have this one client, no kids, no wife, no family, none of that. She's just like all in on her business. I'm like, okay, cool. If you died today, what would your financial advisors, your closest friends and confidants, your pastor, she's very involved in her church, what would they feel like you left undone? And all of a sudden, like little pivots to that question, she's like, oh shit. They would feel like, well, you could have done more here. You could have done more there. You could have done this. You could have done that. And, and then all of a sudden we sold a GUL for 25 million in death benefit so that she could do up those things that she's like, I'm pretty sure they would feel like I left that undone. And
Yeah.
it's such like the cost to provide that is so inconsequential.
Right.
To me, why wouldn't I? It's been a good question, actually.
It's a great question.
So I don't know. What do you think your wife would say though?
I would definitely say that one would be we didn't have another child. And that would break her heart for sure. I mean, finance wise, it's not an issue. We barely discuss issues around money. That never comes up. What else? That the weeds didn't get pulled? Fuck, I don't know, bro. Like my office isn't completely done. Like I really could not tell you the answer she would say. I know for a fact 100% it would be that we didn't have another child.
Is there anything that like your kid's 4, and at 4 years old, there's a lot you want to teach your kid, but also 6. I'm sorry, 6.
It's okay.
So even at 6, 4 is when you went into foster care, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So your kid's 6, and you've been able to teach your kid a lot, but also there's a lot your kid's going to have to learn. If something were to happen today, is there anything you wish you would have taught your kid?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's not much, deep stuff you can teach a 6-year-old, but I think with my son, like we're working very hard with him on respect. Like, dude, don't like what was I doing last night? I was in my office working on something and I heard her just yelling at him, like, don't talk to me like that. Like, why are you talking to me like that? And I got up and I freaking like, dude, I made it known that I was
lock his forehead.
Yeah, reverse choke, everything, bro.
Fucking A.
Yeah, showed him what's up. But I made it known that I was coming out. Like, could we have hardwoods throughout the house? Walked to the door, slammed open my door, walked through the kitchen, walked right to the living room, and instantly he was like this. And I was like, what is going on out here?
I'm imagining you coming out of the office like solely on Monsters, Inc., just coming through the door.
No underwear on, just butt naked. But I think that's one, dude, is like, have some respect. Like, that's your mom. And first of all, she was my wife before she was your mom. So now you disrespecting her, you're automatically disrespecting me. And you don't like disrespecting me. So why are you disrespecting mom? It's like, it's those types of things of like getting his perspective. And that's hard to do for a 6-year-old. Like, that's going to go, you didn't fucking get it. So I think that would be one, like respect for mom, respect for people around you, just self-respect, deeper understanding of that, deeper understanding of what it is to serve for other people and not just to get something back, but just to be an outstanding person. Like, someone needs help with something, like fucking help them and not expect anything back. That type of stuff there. He stands up for himself already, dude. Like he was at school. He got in trouble this year because he socked some kid in the eye, but the kid wouldn't leave him alone. And they were playing and he was like, stop, like we're trying to play. And the kid's like, well, no, I want you to like play with me. And Bennett's like, no, like I'm playing with them. And like, the kid gets up on Bennett and Bennett turns around and right hooks him right in the eye. And when it all happened, he was so scared of getting in trouble. We're like, I just want to know what happened, buddy. Like, were you defending yourself or did you do it out of, not the right way? Now, months later, I asked him again, we're on a bike ride. And this is some of the reasons why I go on bike rides with him. I was like, hey, do you remember when you punched that kid in the eye? And he's like, yeah. I was like, why did you really do it? Like, what really happened? Like, and you're not going to get in trouble. It happened so long ago, buddy. Like, I just want to know. And he's like, Dad, he wouldn't stop like picking on me. Like we were just trying to play and he wouldn't leave me alone. And I told him to stop like 2 times and he didn't. So I did what I thought was right. I turned around and punched him in the face. And I was like, attaboy. Great job. Good. Because I want my son to understand that it's good to defend yourself, stick up for yourself. When I was little, I got bullied a lot in and out of foster care, all these new kids, like, dude, I so I had to learn to stand up for myself very early on. So that's something I would want to make sure is instilled in Bennett is like stand up for yourself and stand up for others when it's the right time, right? So I would say that those would be some pretty big things for me there.
What would like again, you kick the bucket today and now you're just on the other side watching, you're a spectator. What would surprise you about your son's life and what would not surprise you about your son's life as he grew up and experienced things? And what would you be surprised by and what do you feel like you wouldn't be surprised by?
I think I would be surprised how loving he actually is with people because we see him when he's at home and he's Tasmanian devil. And then you see him outside of home and he's not paying attention that you're paying attention. And he's actually a very caring kid. He actually does, want to help people and he actually does care. So I think I wouldn't be surprised about that. I wouldn't be surprised that he loves people. I wouldn't be surprised that he does care. He does help. I think I would be surprised probably about some of the things he might say to people, some of the wrong things that he hasn't learned lessons on yet, that he'll have to learn lessons on the hard way by doing to learn lessons instead of asking us for advice. There's probably going to be things that he's going to do that he could have asked for advice and just decided to make the choice. And I'll probably be surprised by some of that. But I also think too, at the same time, there probably is going to be much I am surprised by because I've done a lot of shit as a kid. So I wasn't really reserved. Like I got to go out and I got in a lot of trouble and I did a lot of dumb shit. So there's probably not, if he did something, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, that's new. Like been there, done that, but this is how you take care of it. If he were to ever lay hands on mom, I wasn't around or dead already, like that would be pretty fucking surprising.
Would you try and haunt him if that happened?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
If you were going to haunt him, what would you do? Like, how would you haunt? I've got ways I would haunt. I've thought about this. I'm real big on reverse mortgage, and I'm always telling people, what are you going to do with that fucking house? Haunt it? Like, no, get rid of it. So I've been thinking about haunting a house for more than a decade now. What would you do to haunt?
I would just daily fuck with them. Like you're starting to go into the bathroom, like I'm pushing something off the counter. You're walking into the bedroom, I'm pushing something off whatever, like all fucking day.
Shit that a cat does. Like
exactly. And then slam doors, like right when you're getting to the door, just slam it. So then you're like, what the fuck, dude? Yeah, just shit like that all day long.
Some skinwalker activities.
I got nothing else to do. I'm dead already. I can be wherever I want and do whatever I want. So yeah. And then when you start dating, oh, it's fucking on. You would not have a girl in the house ever because she'd be so freaked out.
He's going to be getting intimate and you're just going to blow on the nape of his neck. I see. He's going to be like, Daddy. And he's going to be like, the what?
I'm supposed to be saying that.
Right. My God, dude. What up?
That's a good one.
What's your legacy? Have you thought that much about that? Like the legacy you leave to the world, not just, we've been talking about your wife and your kid, but the world, you shit the bed tomorrow and maybe you don't shit the bed, but maybe you just die. There you are, you're on a bike ride. This time the sun's not there. You're on one because, it's late. You've had one of those days, getting a little huffy and puffy with the wife. And she was like, you know what, go blow some steam. So you're out riding the bike by yourself. There you are, just blowing through a red light on the sidewalk by a 7-Eleven. Car hits you. You don't die. You spin around. You do a 360. Your front rim's kind of bent, so you're having a hard time steering. You careen into a bush. Turns out it's stinging nettle. You're allergic to stinging nettle. Did that. You're dead.
First of all, that's a shitty way to go out. Very imaginative.
But if that were to happen tonight, what piece of the legacy you want to leave have you not left yet?
That I was someone that took care of the people around him, right? That's important to me. And my son and my wife were taken care of, and that her parents were taken care of, and my parents were taken care of, and my sister's good, right? Like, did I do what was right all the time? Did I make all the right choices? I'm not going to make all the right choices. I'm still, right? But I think that would be the biggest legacy when someone looks back and goes, damn, it was always good to be around Matt. He was always fun. He always, he never did anything to mess up with anybody as far as like do them wrong, right? Because I think that's important. But I would say that, but legacy wise, dude, like I want to be the one that, 10 generations down, they're hanging my picture above their fireplace. They're, because of what they have and where the Schloss family is because of us, because of what we decided to do right now, and that I'm not forgotten down our lineage. I think that's something that's very important because, you look at my dad's dad, my grandpa, Bennett didn't get to meet him. He passed away when I was 3. So my grandpa's legacy died with him. My grandma went into a home. She sold all his assets. Like he was pretty successful too. And so like that all disappeared with him. So, within our lineage, within our family, there isn't anybody that's doing what I'm doing. I'm the only one that's gone against the grain as far as don't go to college, start a business, go make a shit ton of money and build something that can be passed down. So it's that I call it the oil painting legacy, where your oil painting is still above the family's fireplace 10 generations from now, and they know you.
Yeah, dude. When you say that, the first family that I can think of that comes to mind, like 10 generations, it's a long damn time. When you think about the United States of America, is sitting on like, depending on the family, 3 to 6 generations is all.
Correct.
10 generations is older than the United States of America.
Correct.
We're talking like Rothschild old. We're talking, I mean, that's some significant stuff. What do you want them to hang your portrait for? Is it so? Like, one of the things we've done, for example, we're in the life insurance space. Every employee I've had for the last decade, I bought a life insurance policy on, a keyman policy. And some of them I had to let go over the years when things got tough and I couldn't afford it. But since I've been making money, we haven't. In fact, most of them, it's like, hey, I sold a big policy, and to pay this GUL up for life is only an extra 19 grand, like cut the check. And now I have $1 million GUL paid for, and I'm 32,000 into it. And at some point, this old employee of mine is going to pass away, which isn't unethical. Like, at the time they were working for me, had they passed away while they were employed with me, their family would have gotten 75%. I would have gotten 25 as a key man on a split dollar, like simple stuff. But now that they don't work for me, we get all of it. So at this point, we've got like 70 million in paid up permanent life insurance. And so when you talk about that, I'm like, okay, 10 generations from now, 70 million could be gone in the next generation. But also, if folks are smart and we do the right things, we set up trusts so we can effectively control that money from behind the grave and whatever, we can go 10 generations. We can expand on that, and I'm still young. I can keep doing this. Like, I've only been at it for 10 years. Give me another 10 more.
Right.
Give me another 20. Do I want my picture over the mantle just because I left the money, or is there something else? And so this isn't about me. So what I want to ask of you is, when they hang your picture over the mantle 10 generations from now, that's 10 generations, dude. That, like, we're going back to like the 1500s for 10 generations, right?
Yep.
I mean, we're talking 500 years. So 500 years from now, when they hang your fucking gangly, nasty ass up over the fireplace, and I hope you have one of those real nice collars, like, oh, there you go. There you go. I'm going to do the truffle shuffle. But when they hang that picture and their kids are like, Mommy, Daddy, who is that? Why are they going up there? What do you want them to explain besides just, you left a check that turned into this, that turned into this?
It's not about the money. And the money's going to happen regardless. It's more about the characteristics that we build into the family, right? What knowledge are we going to pass down that's going to stick generation to generation? Like, when we start having grandkids, like, one thing that I want to start doing when we have grandkids is like getting the grandkids together every single year so that we can get them together and have lessons with them on characteristics, on like values and core values and stuff like that. The 5, whatever it may be at that point in time that they need to hear. Projects, so they can start to remember us, but they can start to build these core values into their lives. That's how you get people to remember you, by helping you transform your life one way or another. And then those core values transfer down, and they transfer down, and they transfer down, and they transfer down. Then when they go, well, by the way, grandpa, great-grandpa, great-great-great-great-great-grandpa, a lot of these core values were because of him, but he also did this with all this money, and this is why we have what we have today. That's, in my opinion, the best way to leave a legacy is the knowledge that you get, that you pass down, right? Like, the knowledge that I'm going to be able to pass on to Bennett that was never passed down to me, dude, it's going to change his life forever. And so if I can build that into him, and then I can build that into his kids indirectly, or directly, because if I'm doing these camps with our grandkids, like, how could that not be remembered by these grandkids? Like, grandpa did all this stuff, and then Bennett takes over, and if we have another kid, like, they start doing camps with their kids, dude, how could you not look back 500 years and go, dude, we're still doing these camps, and it's because Grandpa Matt, great grandpa Matt, like, seriously. So that's what I see, man, is it's about the values. It's about the the mindset that we're going to pass down around business and life and family and culture and everything else.
And I think that's the thing that can be passed more than anything. That one word is culture. Like, I think culture holds people accountable more than anything else. It holds people accountable more than regulation does, for sure.
100%. Because you fuck up here and you make the family look bad because you're fucking out. Like, you're not going to mess with the culture anymore. Like, if you decide to go down the path of drugs, you're out of the family trust, you're out of the family legacy, you're out of the family culture. Get the fuck out of here. If you're going to go be a scumbag and steal and break and like, and you're older now, like, obviously kids are going to make their mistakes, but you become an adult and you do these choices that don't align with our culture and our principles, you're out. Like, see you later. You know what I mean? And I think that's the accountability part you're talking about, because so many times people are just a part of a family and they think like, I got to be around this person because they're blood. No, dude. Like, and I'm not going to talk about this because I don't want to bring attention to it, and I don't ever talk about it, but I have a half brother and I don't talk about him, and he's not a part of the family for the shit that he's done in the past. And I had to work with my family for the last 3, 4, 5 years to get them to see my point of view of like why I don't want this person in my life. And now that they finally saw it and it finally came to fruition, but it's like, it's those things that you set up front. Like, if you do this shit, you're out of the family legacy, and you make that choice knowing, dude, you're going to build an entirely different culture inside your family. Because what happens is you pass on this money and then you create drug addicts, and then the money's gone in one generation or less. So you have to create that culture. You have to create that foundation of like, you guys have this stuff coming, but we got to work on our principles. We got to work on being amazing humans, and not perfect humans, because no such thing as perfect. We got to work on these areas to improve and grow. And then you can be a part of the family legacy and culture.
And that's badass stuff. So kind of I guess my last big question here for you, and before we wrap up and let you get out on a bike ride with the kiddo.
Yeah.
If this was your last opportunity, maybe you weren't on a bike ride, maybe there was no singing nettle, but maybe you decided to have a cheat day, you little fit motherfucker, and you decided to go have some Burger King.
Okay.
And there you were, just chowing down on a Whopper, but that Whopper had some stinging nettle in it. No, I'm joking. No. But you were chewing on that Whopper, and there you are in your fucking club wagon while you're eating a Whopper, and tomato slips out the back. You reach down to the floorboards, pick up that tomato. You come to a stop on the train tracks. Train's coming. You get it in. You take a bite. Train comes, kind of hits you. You spin around a little bit, and you're like, "Holy fuck, that was crazy." You get out. You praise God a little bit. You're like, "God, thank you." Lightning strikes. Doesn't hit you. It's next to you. You're like, "That was fucking crazy." You get back in. You're like, both hands on the wheel, just kind of like, "Oh shit, that was a moment." Right? And it's about 5 minutes of quiet time behind the wheel. You look over in the passenger seat, and there's your Whopper. So you pick it up, you take a bite, you choke on the tomato, you die.
Okay.
Matt, what the fuck? Listen, this could happen, okay?
That did not go anywhere I thought it was going to go. I thought I lived and I was going to get home or something, but hell, choked on a fucking tomato. All right, here we go.
Dude, you choked on that tomato that came off the floorboard.
Tomato.
So you're dead. If this was your last opportunity on earth to give your last exhortation to your wife, your son, all the other hundreds and thousands of agents and advisors you're trying to bring influence to, your clients, your community, if this was your last moment to give any statement of impact that could influence them in any way, shape, or form, what few words would you want to share?
It's a really good question. I would say that you need to go all in on whatever it is that you want to do with your life, unapologetically. Surround yourself with people that are where you want to be in life. Cut out the people that aren't, because they're going to hold you back. Focus on the people that have supported you from the very beginning and bring them along with you no matter what. And understand that no matter what you do in life, you're going to have downs. You're going to have moments of doubt. You're going to have moments of, am I doing the right thing with my life? But at the end of the day, when you have those people around you, the mentors, the coaches that are where you're at, they're going to be able to bring you back around full circle to help you understand that you are on the right path. You are just going through what's normal to be, because you're being tested to see if you're ready for the next level. So go all in, go as hard as you can, because you are not promised tomorrow, or none of us are. Like, we could all wake up and literally choke on a tomato tomorrow. And so you really just have to go as hard as you can in everything that you want to do.
Strap up and spray, man.
Strap up and spray, baby. Strap up and spray. I go deep. Got to go deep.
At least 2 inches deep.
At least 2 inches deep.
Yeah. It's not much for, let's be honest. I can tell exactly, you Caucasian ass motherfucker. It's not much deeper.
I'll let my wife comment that below.
Yeah, comment below. Anyways, all right, man. Anything else you want to leave folks with before I let you go for the day?
No, man. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, man. One thing I wanted to tell you is that I've only known you for, I think like a month now, or known of you for a month. And I appreciate your insight on everything, because I'm always looking for people too that are very well versed in the area. Doesn't mean you have to agree with me we have to agree on things, but you're very well versed, and that helps people understand where we're coming from. But I respect what you've done, and I respect what you're doing already. And I just want you to kind of, understand that for sure. And I look forward to building this relationship with you. I know it's going to be more than just a podcast, and I know that we'll do some stuff together for sure. But I would just say, anyone listening to this, like, stick close to Carson, stick close to me, stick close to the things that we're going to be doing, because we're just getting good at this, and we're just getting good at life, and we're only going to get better. But no, man, I appreciate you for sure, and everything you've done, and I look forward to more to come for sure.
Yeah, dude. Likewise. I appreciate it very much, Matt. Go enjoy the bike ride, and my team and I will get this out as soon as we can. And like I said, let me know if you want the raw stuff. I'll send you over the raw cut so you can cut it up and pump some content out. So
cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome, bro.
Hi, buddy. Appreciate you very much. Have a good one.
Cool. You too, bro. Appreciate you.